Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 18th, 2025 meeting of the Town of Richmond Select Board. We begin with public comment from anyone who wishes to speak on an item not on the agenda. Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you. Mary Hool. There's no place for this. It doesn't fit anything else on the agenda. I checked with Stitzel and Page, the town attorneys, and the cost for legal services for the town of Richmond is $210 per hour per lawyer. And if and when taken to a court or trial, they do not have a top dollar amount not to exceed. And the Vermont billboard law was initiated in 1968. The last billboard came down in 1974. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
I have a very important announcement. I have so many cucumbers.
Oh, God, I thought there was.
Really terrific. And zucchini, and I hope that people will take some on their way out.
It's a good year.
When I saw you heft that basket, I thought, please tell me those aren't zucchini.
You could bring them to the food shelf if you want.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my, I will.
Yeah, we gave up on zucchini because believe it or not, I am the person who could not get zucchini to grow. Tomatoes is another matter. Okay, is there any further public comment?
Just two quick things. It's come to my attention that the roadside mower is out of commission
Mhm.
and several roads have not been mowed. And I would encourage the town to work with Pete to get either rent something to get those two roads and some of the intersections mowed, because as a walker, the weeds are coming out to grab us. So we have to get into the road and intersections, some of the intersections. It's disturbing, you just can't see well.
Right.
That's number one. Number two is on your agenda, you have the Black Lives Matter flag as number one, and then a sign policy later. It would seem like you shouldn't be talking about agenda item about Black Lives Matter flag until you have a sign. Thank you.
Okay, we did get Dave's email about the roadside.
Pete's ready to talk about that under item G tonight.
Okay. Any further public comment? Okay, Denise?
Denise Varner. I spoke earlier with Josh today. I noticed when I got back from vacation that the thing in the pedestrian parkway is gone, and Josh told me it's been hit 5 times. The big one that was put there to slow down traffic. Well, I don't want to tell you, it was slowing down the traffic. It was so much safer and cars were slowing down. It might have been too big. I guess I would ask that maybe you put the little pole like you have in front of the Richmond Market there instead. Maybe with a little tiny blinking light on it or something, because it was working. It was slowing people down.
Denise, I apologize. Where are we talking about?
Right in front of the only crosswalk across from Sweet Simone's.
Oh, okay.
Pete's also ready to
Yes.
talk about that under item G.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Okay, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Okay, Caitlin, how are you feeling?
So much better, thank you. Whatever that was 2 weeks ago, it was
Okay,
brutal.
Karen, you do a public comment?
No, addition, deletion, or
Oh, okay,
for now.
sure.
I request that we move item H, which is a discussion of creating a sign policy, to either before A, like Fran would like to see, or at least in front of E, which is a potential executive session.
I'm okay with moving it in front of E if nobody on the select board objects.
That's fine.
Okay. So we'll move that up in front of E. Okay. Our first item on the agenda is consideration of amending the resolution to display the Black Lives Matter sign and flag to change the display time frame to year-round and include messaging that all are welcome here. Now, before we start, before I have the presenters of this resolution come up, I would like you to indulge me briefly.
Jay, can you speak louder in this?
Sure, I'll be happy to speak louder. Can I have sharing permission?
Go ahead.
Okay. I would appreciate it if those who are inclined would take the time to read that, not out loud, but just read through it. Okay. The reason I share this is because there have been questions on Front Porch Forum and elsewhere about the basis for the town displaying a Black Lives Matter sign on the lawn in the first place. This resolution was passed in November of 2021 by the Select Board. I was on that Select Board at that time. Now, in June of 2020, the Select Board agreed to put a Black Lives Matter sign on the town lawn. I was not on the Select Board at that time. It was a unanimous approval. And there was a great deal of support at the time because of the recent murder of George Floyd. The way I see it is, this lawn is essentially a statement of that resolution, statement of the public policy that the town of Richmond does not support bigotry, exclusion, et cetera, et cetera. It's reminding people that our town, well, let me just put it this way. The Black Lives Matter sign on the town lawn is not divisive, in my opinion. It reflects the Declaration of Equity and Inclusion. The Declaration commits Richmond to condemning racism and making sure that all people feel safe and welcome here. The sign is simply a public reminder of that commitment. It is no different than flying the American flag or putting up a Welcome to Richmond sign. It says who we are as a community. Supporting the principle that Black Lives Matter, in my opinion, does not exclude anyone. It affirms that Black residents and visitors deserve the same safety and dignity and belonging that we want for everyone. So, the final thing I wish to say before we open discussion of this is, by what right do we have that sign there in the first place? Why don't we have to put up a sign that is pro-gun or pro-NASCAR or pro-vegan food or anything? The sign on the lawn is speech by the Select Board. And this is something that is documented in the law. It's easy to find if you search. It's speech by the Select Board of a principle that we believe that the town as a whole would endorse. We do not have to put a sign on the lawn that is pro-vegan cooking, much as that might be appealing to some people, because we don't have to put every message out there. The Black Lives Matter slogan and the All Are Welcome sign are meant to state a goal for the whole town. And I'd like to share what the sign looks like, because some people are accustomed to seeing the old sign and may not have actually stopped by to see what the current sign looks like. So I will share that. I can remember how to. Any minute now. Okay, this is one side of the sign as it sits out there now. We concurred with the Richmond Racial Equity body, their request to change the sign from something that was white letters on a black background, if I recall, that was kind of forbidding, to something that looked a little more welcoming and inclusive. And let me show you the other side of the sign. That's not the other side of the sign. That's the other side of the sign. So stop that. Okay, maybe it'll stay this time. That's the other side of the sign. So the pride flag inspired heart and the Black Lives Matter message on one side and all are welcome here on the other. I don't see anything divisive about that. If anyone objects to that, I cannot put myself in their shoes. It seems like a fairly straightforward matter. So I repeat all this because people may wish to kind of say, let's revisit the whole question of the sign being there in the first place. The item before us tonight is not the question of whether the sign should be there in the first place. The resolution before us is a resolution requesting permission to have the sign up year round. And that is a matter that the select board will have to discuss after the presenters of the resolution have had their time presenting it. So this resolution was brought to us by members of Richmond Racial Equity, and I see we have several of their members tonight. Bonnie Stoyer is going to be their spokesperson. So Bonnie, if you'd like to come up, and I will share the resolution, but you can also read through it if you'd like. Let me just pop it up here.
Yeah, I didn't bring the actual resolution
I have it
with
here.
me because I figured you would probably be sharing it. So yes, I'm Bonnie Stoyer. I'm representing Richmond Racial Equity. And
Please, increase your volume.
oh, happy to.
Thank you.
I'm Bonnie Stoyer, representing Richmond Racial Equity. And in addition to this ask for a posting for 365 days a year, which is an increase from the 3 months that's currently allowed. We also are bringing this revised resolution because the select board had asked for the resolution to state this broader inclusive message that we are hoping would be continually supported by the town. It is, as Jay very helpfully mentioned, it is in alignment with the Declaration of Equity and Inclusion, and therefore is the words that should hopefully go along with the deeds that the town is committing to in terms of the goals around that. So do you want me to read the resolution? I'm happy.
Yes,
to
I
do it.
actually would if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. Amendment to the resolution in support of displaying a Black Lives Matter flag and sign. Whereas on June 18th, 2021, the Richmond Selectboard adopted a revised resolution in support of displaying a Black Lives Matter flag and Black Lives Matter sign for a period of 3 months each year, which begins each June 19th, a date also known as Juneteenth, the date of emancipation from slavery for Black Americans. And whereas the fight for true equity for Black and Brown peoples is not yet achieved by evidence of continued systemic racism, discrimination, and perpetuation of violence towards non-white people in disproportion to their representation population, and that this discrimination occurs all days of the year in Vermont and nationally. And whereas other marginalized groups in our society, such as LGBTQIA plus Jewish and Muslim communities, are facing increasing discrimination and violence, which also demands recognition and support. And whereas to make visible our town's values outlined in our Declaration of Equity and Inclusion that states in part that we welcome all persons regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender identity or expression, age, or disability, and that we will strive to ensure all of our actions, policies, and operating procedures reflect this commitment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Richmond will continuously and prominently display these commitments by sign and flag to remind all those who live in and travel through our community that Black and Brown lives matter and that we are welcoming to all. So that is our request. There's been a lot of talk, as we all know, or those who read Front Porch Forum, as I do every day, that there's been a lot of talk that this is political speech. And I really strongly disagree with that. I think that this is a clear statement of our town's values. It is putting a face, essentially, on what we have already committed to in this Declaration of Equity and Inclusion. It's fact that there's discrimination backed by statistics and by the lived experience of people who are not white, who live in Vermont and in our community. And it's present every day. Non-white town residents wonder why it disappears. Why is it only there for 3 months out of the year? And this is clearly an issue that is there every single day of the year. Some people wonder, you know, was this just a fad? Like, aren't we over this yet? And clearly, we're not. Our society is steeped in racism, and I think that that is not something that's really debatable. And I'm certainly, there's too much evidence to suggest that there's any kind of debate about that. Also, folks also think that that we might stop seeing it if it's there all year round. That we stop seeing things that are constantly in front of our faces. And what I would suggest is that if you're a white person, that sign's not there for you. It's for the people who live in our town, for the people who are traveling through our town, who are wondering what kind of community Richmond is. And I would quite starkly say, do non-white lives matter to the residents of Richmond? Do we care that LGBTQ plus peoples feel welcome in our town? What kind of community do we want to raise our children in? And I would just really ask that the select board approves posting this message of inclusion every day of the year. And all of the small details, the things like, how are we going to keep it updated? How are we going to make it still look fresh? Are just small, inconsequential details that can be worked out amongst citizens of really goodwill who want to see that this message is clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, I imagine that we have a number of people who would like to speak to this tonight, but here's how we're going to do it. The select board gets first dibs on questions and comments, and then we'll turn to people both online and here in the room. Each person is requested to keep their top comments germane to the motion or to the resolution. And again, not to the question of whether the sign should be there at all. That's settled. I'd like each person to have a chance to speak before we start calling on people a second time. But first, I'd like to go to the select board. David, Bard, and Caitlin, you have questions, comments, thoughts?
I have one. If you go up, I think it's the whereas just above where we are. So I'm just going to say what I know to be true. And it's not a criticism of Black Lives Matter, but it's a factual thing. The last I knew that one of the groups in the state that's most subject to violence are people with disabilities, which isn't clearly stated here. And so at one level, maybe it doesn't matter. But when I think of people with disabilities, Indigenous people, I guess we killed most of them, so they're not here anymore to be discriminated against, but they are still discriminated against around the country. And there are members of Indigenous groups in Vermont that would say they are discriminated against and perpetuations of violence. So I'm not sure we need to wordsmith this, but I think those things are relevant to the scope of what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you, Bard. Caitlin or David, any questions, thoughts?
I like your point, Bard, but I don't think that we need to necessarily wordsmith it because I'm seeing we have other marginalized groups in our society, such as, so although there's examples, I think that leaves room for us to be able to add additional messages where we need to. When we first talked about, when we first talked about this, we were revising the sign, right? And when we revised the sign, I think I made it clear at that point that I wasn't sure why it was just 3 months out of the year being new. Trying to understand what was going on there. The new sign is absolutely beautiful. I think that the key point to me is that this is voice of the select board, and as a select person and my voice, I completely back this and the message that's with it. I'm looking forward to hearing some public comment, but to be very clear, I'm very aligned with the message.
David, thoughts?
Not yet.
Okay, so public comment. I don't see any hands up yet in the Zoom. Who would like to, if anybody would like to comment on this?
We'll just make a brief comment.
State your name, please.
Yeah, Matt Buckley, in the, got the where, I can't help but think like a lawyer, but. You got the whereases and then the last paragraph now resolved. But the resolved language is limited to Black and Brown Lives Matter. And I'm wondering why the resolution language left out the language that comes earlier about LBG, and this fits in with the comment about Indigenous disability. I find the last paragraph as being limiting.
I will say I agree with you. I think that's a very good point.
And so I know there's maybe a difficulty with wordsmithing. It strikes me as it needs to be wordsmithed. If there is going to be a sign, I'm not commenting, I want to make it very clear on whether the sign would be there or not. I'm commenting on the resolution and the way it's worded. I think the way it's worded is flawed.
Right, we kind of need to get this part to be resolved.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Mary?
Yeah, Mary Hool. I would like not for this, I would like for the select board not to pass this resolution. I think that, a lot of folks did read Front Page Forum, and that's not to say that lives don't matter, because all lives matter. And just tell me right now, if you don't think that's true, just go right ahead. I've taken enough slings and arrows from all the bullshit, and I won't take it anymore. But you have to listen to more than just me. There are people who are afraid to come forward because they will be called racist. They will be called intolerable, as I have been. Well, that's just tough. I'm not. The people who put out their information about, oh, you know, the environment matters and global warming, show me one person that's planted a tree with their own dime. I've planted 3,000. Congratulations. You're the first one that I've met in this town that has planted a tree on their own dime for the environment. I've planted 3,000. So I'd like to see the folks that are promoting this where they're putting their money where their mouth is. I do not believe that this needs to go. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Kara?
Carol Bounty. Just a couple of questions, if that's okay. Of the select board members who this is your voice, how many of you have these signs on your lawn?
I
Yeah.
think this is an important question. And for whatever reason, I had a Black Lives Matter sign on my lawn for a year and a half, 2 years. And then my family made the judgment that the moment had passed for that. In my neighborhood, I see more I forget what it is, the more generic sign that's not Black Lives Matter. It's
The one that Glover came up with?
no, it's you can actually buy it. It's thing and it says,
The multiple lines.
yeah, multiple colors, multiple lines. So that's what I've generally seen in my neighborhood. But to answer your question, I used to have one and I took it down. And I'll just add, this is only me, that in the context of the day, I will just say the context of today during the current federal administration feels really different than the world did 3 or 4 years ago. Between ICE and immigration and the gutting of the federal workforce. So that's just, it's a long-winded answer that I used to have one and I don't have one anymore. But I think it's a fair question for both us and other folks who think that this is an important thing to have. Do those people have it on their lawns as well?
Yeah, for those of you who raised their eyebrows and went, what is Jay talking about vis-a-vis Glover? The town of Glover up in the Northeast Kingdom,
We're talking about Richmond here.
I know that, Kara, please don't interrupt with that. Kara, you were not recognized.
I wasn't done.
Other
It was a
people,
question and I had more questions.
okay, then we'll call on you again, but I'm answering your question too. You asked if we have these signs up. I brought this sign up to say, in addition to the standard Black Lives Matter sign, which I think is somewhat limited. I also have this, and I can tell you where you can get one of your own if you'd like one. By all means, continue.
No, Caitlin had her hand up.
Okay.
If I can just make a comment on that as well, I don't have any signs on my lawn. I have two very young children and I'm surprised that the lawn is mowed half the time. If my friends told me that they would be more comfortable coming into my neighborhood and coming to my house if I had a sign on my lawn, then I would put that sign on the lawn immediately. And if that's the difference of us having that for the year versus not, is me having that sign on my lawn as well, great, I will put it up.
I used to, I live on the end of a dirt road, private dirt road, so nobody would see it if I put it on my lawn. But I did use to put signs because I have property frontage on Kenyon Road, but every sign I put up disappeared. So I stopped putting signs up.
So of the 4 select board members here, 1 has the sign on their lawn, the rest want it on the town center lawn. We're talking about the difference between 3 months and 12 months. My question is, what is the existing permit number that you have on record for the existing sign that's out there now? Is it permitted?
We don't have it. We have not issued a permit for it. The select board voted to approve it.
Okay, the select board can't approve a zoning permit. A zoning administrative officer has. So I just want to make a point that you are in violation of your own sign ordinance currently with the existing sign. So if you're going to extend that sign from 3 months to 12 months, you're going to be in violation of your own sign ordinance. If you look at your own zoning regulations, page 58 is where your signs are. The exceptions to the ordinance are not is not that sign that you have out there. You're not a farm, you're not certain things. And in your own sign ordinance, it says you are allowed 1 sign per lot, which means the town center sign over there that says you have a police department, etc., will have to come down if you permit the Black Lives Matter sign and All Lives Matter. So just to let you know, the select board can approve something, but it doesn't mean it can be there without a permit. So I'm not arguing. I'm actually somebody who would like to say, if you continue to have this sign out there and not listen to other community members who are afraid to come forward, and you know they are, I want you to add to that sign. And I'm making this request that the group who is coming forward with this, I would like it to all are welcome except the LaBounties. Because I have written evidence that the LaBounties aren't welcome in this town, from violations that got overturned in environmental court, to letters of apologies from town staff, to how I am treated in video.
On this
by
because
select
you've gone
board
much more than
chairs.
2 minutes.
So I am,
We need to move on. You've had your turn. Others may wish to speak. Would anybody else like to speak on this item? Mary, you've all said your turn. Is there anybody who is not? Chuck?
Chuck Gilroy, resident on Dugway Road. I don't have a sign on my front lawn. I've flown the American flag for the 40 years I've lived here. I mean, that's an inclusive symbol. It's something every one of us has in common. It doesn't differentiate between us. I think if I try to read the tea leaves a little bit here, I think everybody is on board with the resolution. Everybody is on board with the wording. We all feel that way in our hearts, that we want to be that organization. I think the Black Lives Matter logo, motto, whatever, has some negative connotations. If you're in law enforcement, Black Lives Matter flags do not sit well with you, because they're an accusation of all police bundling them all together and separating them. So I'm okay with the inclusive sign. I'm okay with the Glover sign. I'm not okay with the Black Lives Matter sign.
Thank you, Chuck. Any further questions this time from the select board? Okay, going, Matt?
Yeah, Matt Walker. I want to start with a question and a follow-up. The question of the select board is, what's your policy currently for political signs?
Our policy is that they would have to be approved by the select board.
Because I've looked it up and I can't find it in the, as far as I recollect, is all political signs are banned on town property, especially during, it's mostly geared toward the election use. But all political signs are banned. So I go to blacklivesmatter.org and it starts with Black Lives Matter as a decentralized political and statement movement. It's political sign.
Any thoughts from the select board about any of that?
You know, I've been pondering the same thing because in the last at least few days, I did another set of research. And one of the things that I've wrestled with all along, beyond sort of signs and what we say, is what do we do? So what actually happens that's different in how we treat people or how those people feel? And again, for me, it's a broader group. It includes people with disabilities, other folks. So, you know, what I'm wrestling with is the phrase Black Lives Matter helpful. Clearly, it is alienating some people, and other people feel strongly that that is the core statement. I think one of the challenges that I saw when I was looking at what is Black Lives Matter, and a criticism that came up from a couple of places, is there's no actual strategy about what we're trying to achieve. So what would we actually do that would be different in the town? And I mentioned this years ago to, you know, like, is it affordable housing? Is it good paying jobs? Like, what are the things we're trying to do to support any of these groups? So I'm just wrestling with that. And from where I sit, trying to sort out the different points of view, I'm wrestling with the question, is the phrase Black Lives Matter helpful or alienating? And perhaps like a lot of our current political environment, it's split. There are people who think it's great, and there are people who think it's the opposite of great. And how do we sort out a compromise in that environment?
Okay, Bonnie?
I personally would love to see on the side that says Black Lives Matter, I would like to say Black and Brown Lives Matter. I do think that that more broadly addresses the current time that we are in when people are being targeted who are not white, and really does sort of broaden that inclusion. So I helped paint the sign. I would happily paint that sign, that side of the sign again, and include brown lives. The LGBTQ more broadly inclusive flag that's depicted on there does, in its symbolism, have both a black and a brown stripe on that. It's a little, the brown is a little light, or a little dark rather, you can't really tell, but that is there. And I do, you know, I really do push back against this being political speech. I mean, I think that this is about what does our town value? And I agree with Bart, it needs to be about more than words, it needs to be about deeds as well. Affordable housing being a huge issue around that. I had another quote too, but I can't think what it is, so.
Patty?
I would just respond to Bart, your question. So what do we do? You know, what are we doing? What is our action? I think the statement is really, really important. Given the statistics of what's going on in our country, Black and brown people are discriminated at a very high rate. And violence against those folks is pretty serious. And one of the things that we can do in Richmond is make sure that we have a police department that is responsive. The select board passed a very progressive, very impartial policing policy. That's action that you took. We are on the verge of potentially hiring a police chief and police officers. And I agree. I think that police have gotten a bad rap. However, the statistics aren't good. 37% of the population are not white in the United States, and 67% of the people that are shot by police And those people are unarmed. You know, are black and brown people. So you know, there's a problem. And I'm not saying that our police are a problem, and I think that there has been a really serious, you know, there's been a serious problem with how we treat our police. However, training, who we are looking for, community policing, how we treat each other, you know, it's just really, really important, and it's something as a town we can do. We can address these things.
Did you want to speak? I thought I saw your hand go up at one point. Nope. Okay. And what's her name? June.
June Heston, I'm a member of Richmond Racial Equity, and I was one of the people that said, well, what about the logistics? Like, are you gonna see the sign behind a snowbank? And also wondering, knowing that there were people in town that that thought this would be divisive and would not be for it, I actually made phone calls to talk to people because I wasn't really sure, like, what should we do about this? And it was interesting to hear what people had to say and to hear that there are people who are afraid to speak up because they'll be called racist. I personally don't think people in this town are necessarily racist. I think people don't understand always what the issues are around this. And to be fair to those people, we need to have a conversation. So I was really happy and proud of our town for the civil discourse that took place on Front Porch Forum, because there were a number of people who felt that they could put their views out there and not be criticized for it. So yay for all of you, whatever side of this you're on. And after doing a lot of thinking, I really feel like, I know people think that this is a political issue. People have tried to make Black Lives Matter a political issue. But what we need to think about is the human rights issues. Because right now, we are living in a world where people, whether you believe it or not, are being put in concentration camps in this country. And they're mostly people of color, if not all. And so I would love to see us come together and not make this a divisive issue, but an issue about human rights. And this is one sign, because maybe down the road, we're going to have to put a sign that, you know, women have rights and education is important. Because the way we're going, we need to come together as a town to say this is a human rights issue. And I believe our town believes that we need to support human rights. Because right now, the disparity between the disparity of equity is getting much bigger and growing. It's not getting smaller. And so I would love to see us come together and say, okay, we're gonna come together and say this is a sign about human rights, and continue to have a conversation of, can we make it better? Can we make it more inclusive? You know, and one of the things that changed my mind is having someone on Richmond Racial Equity talk about her child who is a person of color, questioning why that sign isn't there all year. That impacted me. And like Bonnie said, this isn't for us. It's for people coming into our town. And we live in a world now where I think we want to make this town safe.
So real quick, we've heard, there's a bunch of people now want to go second time, which I understand. I just want to check with the select board. Have you any further questions or anything, or do you want to make a motion? What's your choice at this point?
I have a comment, and then I'll make a comment on the motion as well, but I think, Bart, to your point of what you're doing, and to your point of, you know, this isn't for us, what we're doing is showing our support for our community members and people that are coming through town, so that everyone feels welcome here and that we are a community of people who are supportive of everything that is on that sign. If the words Black Lives Matter are not the right words to use, I'm open to conversation about that, but I will say I am very supportive of a sign year-round being in place to show our support to the community and to people coming through this community. I think it's absolutely critical at this time. And I think that taking the sign down, as one of my friends in discussing this said, is more impactful than putting it up. I think that if I could make just one last point on this, is that if we take a look around to our community members and to this room, we are a majority of white people sitting around talking about a Black Lives Matter sign. And I've heard from the Racial Inequity Committee that our community members who are people of color want this sign, and that is enough for me. One comment on the amendment, or the motion, I should say. We had discussed a couple of changes to it. And so I don't know if we can still make the motion or if we need to
We
make.
can amend the
this.
resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Point of order, you're not gonna take your question, is it?
Hold on.
Sorry.
If you do make a motion to change the resolution, can you still approve it tonight, or does it have to be warned again?
No,
for the-
we can approve it tonight. This is not a resolution expending money on behalf of the town or putting the town into a binding agreement or appointing any officials. This is not a zoning matter. This is not us signing a contract with somebody. It's the speech of the select board. And we wanted as many people as possible to know about it, but at the end of the day, it's speech of the select board. Okay, so Caitlin, I will say this. I think Kara has a point about if we're going to follow the law, we should get a permit. Yes, it trickles all the way up to us if it gets past Keith, but it really should go to Keith. We should get a permit. We should get whatever the term is for an after the fact retroactive permit.
But Jay, one point on that, on the permit and the zoning regulations, you can pull up the ordinance right now. Josh can share the screen with you and you can go right to page 58 and see it for yourself and read down to page 59 and 60 where it says one sign per lot.
And we can amend that too. Well, we can
Or
look
you have
at,
to go through your zoning ordinances to change that, so that would impact everybody else who has one lot that have multiple signs. So you might consider, if you're going to keep a sign and have it be permanent, not have it be something on the front lawn like that, but have it on the town center sign as another strip, or I don't know what section of it below. And then if you're going permanent 12 months out of the year, it stays with the rest of the permanent sign.
okay, that's certainly an idea. Yep. Okay, Mary.
Yes, thank you. I said what I said because I was denied putting a sign on the lawn that says abortion stops a beating heart. I understand the resolution, but the resolution for the town can also address that and make that sign something that would be allowed. And perhaps all lives matter should be on there. Black, brown, white, yellow, whatever rainbow color, it's fine, but all lives matter. And the last point, please, if I broke my leg and it healed, I would remember that for the rest of my life. I don't need to break my leg every year to get it. I will still remember that for the rest of my life, but I don't need my leg broken every year.
Well, then don't play goalie. Okay, Matt.
Yeah, so.
And then Emily, I'll get Emily after Matt.
On that point of the zoning regulations, you're also breaking your own ordinance by putting a political sign out there according to the Black Lives Matter website.
Okay.
That is a political movement.
That's a point of view. I believe we talked to our attorneys about that and we can follow up on that. Emily.
He had his hand up.
I'm sorry, Emily had her hand up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I apologize for not being there in person. COVID's still out there, friends. So if you get sick, make sure you test. That's my PSA for the evening. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I see you and I hear you and I love you. All lives cannot matter until Black lives matter. They cannot. Unfortunately, the way our society has been structured and our brains have been programmed to believe that structure, they cannot. So if I need to make a smaller sign to paint to fit to the permanent sign to meet our
zoning laws or whatever, I'm happy to do that. And I actually have both a Black Lives Matter sign and an LGBTQ sign at my house. Thanks.
Okay, Ian?
So the way I'm hearing this is that this, if you guys decide to do this, that sign is never coming down. Is that correct?
That's not necessarily true. One of the things we often have to remind ourselves of is we're the current select board. It could happen that in the next round of elections, we have 2 new select board members and they could, along with the other members, vote to take the sign down. Nothing is permanent.
I think the other thing to consider is that I think that you guys have created an environment where people are afraid to speak about these things if they have an opposing view. And what are you gonna do about that?
We're not going to do anything. We cannot
What
change.
do you say to the people?
I
that are
don't say
against it?
anything. I'll explain why. We did not create the culture in which certain attitudes are looked down on. This is hundreds of years of American history that did that. David Sander, Bard Hill, Caitlin Filkins, and Jay Furr cannot change that just because we'd like it to. So that is a topic for this and future generations.
I just want to remind you though, you represent everybody in the state.
Ian, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I keep hearing this. People are afraid to speak. I take offense to that. I take a lot of time to meet with constituents. Why should I take offense to that? Kara, I've met with you many times out of select board meetings.
He's speaking and you just interrupted him.
I did, because once again, I'm being told that people are afraid to speak to me.
Sarah?
Okay,
Stop.
I'm done. I'm done. Continue.
Against your opinion.
Continue.
Ian, if you have anything else to say, continue.
No, that's the main point. I would like to see like an ounce of contrition from somebody that is a proponent of this sign. I have not heard an ounce of contrition.
Hey, Ian, I'd like to tell you a story that happened to me this weekend. It's quick. I was at an event in Boston this weekend, an breast cancer event. And I got to talking with a person I met on an event. And we were just chatting along and she said, essentially, it's going to be time to have the talk with my son soon. And I, of course, said, yeah, well, it all gets to that point where puberty comes along. That wasn't the talk she was planning. The talk she was planning was the one about what to do when a police officer stops you to avoid getting shot. Where's the contrition toward those people?
It's all that I've heard all week. It's all I hear every day. But I don't hear anything that represents the opposing point of view.
Then perhaps you can sympathize with these people. It is not on me to do that. I don't agree with them. From the bottom of my heart, I do not agree with them, and I'm not going to say I'm sorry.
I'm going to speak for a minute. I've been up here for 14 years. I've been sworn at. I've been threatened. I've been harassed in public. I've had very demeaning statements made to me. I've always gone out of my way to meet with people, have reasonable conversations with people. I often have discussions with people that I don't agree with, but we have fruitful conversations. I went into this meeting tonight very proud that we could come together as a community, have this conversation, and I simply interrupted. I'm sorry if I interrupted you. And I do take offense to being told that people feel threatened by us and that we're intimidating. I go out of my way to be welcoming and to talk to people. And with all the abuse that I have to put up with, to be told that I am abusive, I am confrontational, people are afraid to talk to me. I'm sorry. I'm offended by that. I'm done. I'm going to listen. I'm not going to talk.
Okay, and I'm going to add to that. I'm sitting here in the chair as select board chair. When you guys nominated me and voted for me, I don't recall asking for the job. In fact, I had absolutely no interest in being the select board chair again. After the abuse that I took 2 years ago, where I got people calling and hanging up on my phone late at night. Now, I don't know if those maybe were people from Keokuk, Iowa, but people were calling my phone and hanging up. I was getting people stopping me on the street and saying things that I really didn't appreciate. So when this year came around and David stepped down as chair, I was praying to high heaven that Bard would take it. Because Caitlin's just joined us, and Adam Wood has kids and is only 1 year on the board. I was praying he would take it. No one else wanted it. And I think you'd have to be crazy to want this job. So when I got up this morning, I didn't particularly think I'd be coming to a meeting to be scolded about how I'm not showing contrition to people who have views that are outside the main line. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I am not going to show contrition for these views, and I'm ready to take a motion from Caitlin if she has one to make.
Yep, I would like to make just one quick comment before I make the motion. I mean, it may need help editing it, but I've only been on the select board for not even a year yet. I appreciate the healthy conversation. I hope that it's very clear in the statements that I make in this room that I will speak my mind and I will speak the truth of what I think is the truth, and that I would like you to do the same. And I am open to conversation at any point in time. I am someone who will leave it all on the table, and I hope you do too. And I would love to have a conversation. I hope that no one feels that that doesn't mean that means they can't come to me. It just means that you'll never be guessing with what I'm thinking or how I feel. And with that, I would like to make a motion. It may need editing and I may need some help with understanding how to edit, but I moved to amending the resolution with updates to display the Black Lives Matter sign and flag, to change the display timeframe to year round and include messaging that all are welcome here. Do I need to update that?
Please state your revised language.
Deal with that.
Revised language, oh, in the bottom of the, with, yeah.
If you want to pop up
And we can
do it.
Word
live.
snippet online.
We can live edit if you guys would like to do that. Assuming we're not.
You're mid-motion though.
Okay.
Oh, do we, well, the motion shouldn't be seconded until it's done being made, but,
Yes.
was it the final paragraph that you wanted to address?
Yes.
Yes, so it says now therefore be it resolved that the town of Richmond will continuously and prominently display these commitments by sign and flag to remind all those who live in and travel through our community that Black and Brown lives matter, and that we are welcoming to all. And the comment that we had there is that we don't pull in the text from above, which is other marginalized groups in our society, such as LGBTQIA plus, Jewish and Muslim communities.
So you want me to,
Copy that down
for
and
live editing here, Caitlin, do you want to copy this part down? Or where do you want to?
Specific groups are called out above in the whereas that are not included.
Yes.
This one is less.
hypothetical.
in-
That Black and Brown lives matter, and that the town is welcoming to LGBTQIA, Jewish, Muslim, and everything from all persons to disability.
Isn't that what the next whereas attempt?
Well, I'm actually trying to get into the resolved.
Yeah, it has to be mentioned in the.
So
result.
you could, I thought that was sort of what Josh did. You could literally cut and paste that down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think, hold on, I think where we have the inclusion that states in part that we welcome all persons regardless of race, color, religion, and national origin, sex, gender, identity, or expression, age, or disability, that's kind of what we're trying to get at without, and above it doesn't really include all of
Right.
that, so that's what we would want to include, and that's just in the paragraph above, there you go.
Is that? I just added including and.
That actually looks.
Yes, yes,
good
yes,
to
yes.
me.
The new wording.
Yeah, lowercase the A and all though. Above, just before your yellow.
This one here?
Yep.
Should we lowercase the W in welcoming?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think I think it was the uppercase for welcoming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so does that wording look okay?
Just reading. Yes, put a period on the end instead of a comma after disability.
Okay. So, do you want to just for grins, do you want to restate your motion?
Yes, if I can find it here. So I move to amending the resolution with updates to display the Black Lives Matter sign and flag, to change the display time frame to year round and include messaging that all are welcome here with the updates made here.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made by Caitlin Falcon, seconded by Bart Hill. Go ahead, Bart.
I'm not sure this fits in the resolution, but there was an offer. I'd first conclude that for at least some percentage of the people in our town, literally the phrase Black Lives Matter is problematic as opposed to the concept. And so what I'm contemplating is, does changing it to Black and Brown Lives Matter sidestep the question of that specific group and get to the context? Because there was an offer to modify the sign to include that word. And in theory, it would be not as off-putting to some folks who see it as a specific organization
True, there is no Black and Brown Lives Matter organization out there that we're.
that I'm aware of.
I think that the resolution stands as I've said it,
Yes.
of what I've said here, the motion I'm trying to put in place. And if that's something that you all want to explore as a committee, that's great. And come back and say, we want to make an update to the sign. I imagine there's probably some conversation to happen there, if that's the right message or what that looks like. I don't want to chase down the rabbit hole of what the Black Lives Matter mean to a certain people and what they take from it, because again, this sign is for community members and for people driving through our town to make people feel comfortable and welcome. It's not necessarily for all of the white people in our community.
Okay, Kara?
I think you missed the point, David, when we say that people are afraid to come forward. They aren't afraid of you individually. They're afraid of the power that you yield. You as a select board member are above town employees. You're above policies. You're above committees that make policies and enforce policies. They fear the power you yield as a group. Wield, thank you. I appreciate you correcting me, Jay. I do appreciate that. But you're yielding it as a sword and you're wielding it however you want to do, and you're doing all of the above. And I can speak up, and I do speak up very often. And I'm not treated very well when I do, and you've witnessed it. So my point to you is, if I, a lifelong resident of this community, has the strength to come forward and speak for others because they ask me to, and I'm put down, I'm attacked with violations against me that are political, and even the judge has said that, then I'm telling you, you are not recognizing the fear that people have to give you their opinion in an open forum, like Ian, who is giving you his feelings, how he felt, how he's hearing it from others, and rather than hear what he's having to say and represent him too, you took it personally.
I did.
And so did Jay. And that's not fair, because you're supposed to represent, can I finish?
Can I just interrupt? I would be more than happy to buy you a cup of coffee and continue this conversation.
It's not about this.
It is, because I'm being singled out and accused of things that I don't feel I've done, and it's come up again and again and again. I'm too upset to talk to you about this right now, but I'd be more than happy to take the time to continue this conversation later.
I appreciate that, David, but here's the point. I've had individual conversations with select board members who say things behind closed doors to me that they don't say in public because they are fearful of what's going to happen to them.
You're waving your finger at me. Your tone is very hostile. I would be more than happy. I'm talking. I'd be more than happy to continue this conversation. I'm not going to have this conversation in a room full of people. I'm more than happy to have this conversation with you after I've calmed down and we can continue it one-on-one.
At this point, it is the opinion of the chair that this conversation has passed the point of being useful. And I'm going to say one thing in response to Kara about personal. There have been many attacks on me.
And me.
And David, but
you're interrupting again, Kara.
We're not talking about my septage. My septage actually alleged, according to PNP, is fine. You just need the distribution box fixed. But I get attacked all the time by people who allege that I have motives where I'm like, no, I don't particularly have a motive. At the time that we passed that seemed to be the will of the audience. Oh, but you had this motive. I'm tired of being told that I have motives. I'm tired of you telling me that I have motives that I don't have. So the personal attacks are not welcome by any member of the select board. We put this first on the agenda to go ahead and get it out of the way. We have a motion before us and I'm ready for a vote.
Could I bring up one thing, please?
Sure.
One of the things, just to ensure that people are feeling heard, someone did mention that there is a political organization and that there is a thought that you might want to reach out. You said reaching out to an attorney just to make sure that this is not a political statement. And I think making sure you keep that in mind when you vote on this, that you will follow up on the comment you made.
Right. I will say that I think we'd have two action items for either later in this meeting where we're discussing the sign policy or a zoning matter to take to teeth.
Yep.
Okay.
And when we get results on the sign policy, if there's opinion from the attorney that we need to adjust the verbiage, I'd like to work with the committee to make sure that we're adjusting it appropriately.
Okay. Bart, last comment.
The only thing I'll say about the committee has no power or authority whatsoever.
I understand.
So I'm not comfortable saying hand it to the committee and they decide what to say. I think like other committees, what we might ask them to do, this was what I would suggest, is ask them to come back with a revised design that says Black and Brown Lives Matter. That's just my personal take, and it diffuses some of the question of what does the Black Lives Matter organization mean versus the phrase. And I think that has to come back and be approved by us because we should not delegate select board speech to not select board, just to be clear.
Right. I would
Yeah.
like the opinion of the committee as the experts in the space who are spending the time to represent voices of this town. I'd like to hear what their recommendation would be, just as me who can't, I don't have the ability to say in this audience today that Black and Brown Lives Matter is the right phrase that does what it's supposed to do in what we're trying to achieve with the original. So I just need some more information if we're going to change
I
things.
think all of us would be happy to have conversations with any member of this audience over coffee, over bocce, or pickleball when the time comes.
Can I make just one comment about context? So the committee is Richmond Racial Equity Committee, right?
Right. We are ad hoc town group.
Right.
We're not an official committee of the town.
So do you deal with disability, gender identity? I mean, my thesis is you don't, because that's not your title. So that's my only point,
Sure.
that when we're saying it's this big and we're talking to a committee that is a subset of that, certainly it's appropriate to say, what is their perspective?
Yes.
But it's my thesis that we should expect them to be expert on the racial element of a broader fabric.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Thank you. I think the words Black and Brown Lives Matter is where I need some input, which is the
enough.
Rachel Committee.
Okay, so the motion made by Caitlin Filkins and seconded by Bart Hill is to amend the resolution to display the Black Lives Matter sign and flag and to change the display timeframe to year round and include messaging that all are welcome here. Please state your name and your vote.
I'm sorry, Jay.
As amended.
As amended. I'm sorry. This gentleman in the plaid shirt has had his hand up for a very, very long time.
But this item is scheduled for 20 minutes. We cannot hear from everybody who wants to speak again. Chuck, if you have something really critical.
Thank you.
Okay.
David. I'm a conservative, which like in Richmond is like a minnow of the ocean, you know? So when I say, this was hard for me to come talk about this tonight without being branded racist, okay? And when I say it's difficult, I don't mean the select board makes it difficult. I just mean society in Richmond. I'm that 10%. I've seen the elections against the 90%. That's what makes it hard for me to speak. Please don't take what I say personally.
I didn't, but thank you.
Okay.
Can you
Second
folks
thing.
just slow down? Sorry.
Listen, we cannot hear from everybody who wants to keep speaking on this. We have to move on.
He represents my. But you haven't said everything needs to be said.
We have heard from quite a few people tonight, and this agenda is not exclusively on this issue. There comes a point where we move on. And it's a decision of the chair, me, who didn't want to be chair, that we have reached the point of diminishing returns and we need to move on. But David's offer remains, and it's true of me. It's probably true of the others. If anybody wants to sit down and talk about this, give me a call, send me an email, and I will be happy to meet you.
Time you just said that, I could have made it 1 minute.
Great, but I keep having to say it. So please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart abstain.
David,
J.I. Okay, our next item on the agenda is consideration of a request to use conservation reserve funds to purchase trees, garden hoses, and benches with cement pads to be installed near the pickleball courts at Brown's Court. Judy is with us. Judy, would you like to speak about this request?
It's muted.
You're muted, Judy.
Right, I always do that. I could do it. I wondered if it would be more appropriate for the people who developed the original proposal, but I yield to your thoughts.
Okay, Fran?
Which is weekly meeting things next season.
I think Fran, go ahead, or Denise, do you want to speak?
Sure, I'll start. We are 3 members of the 3 Parks Committee, and I wish I had thought ahead. It's our 2-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
The select board appointed us 2 years ago to be the 3 parks. We have met with Chair Rachowski many times regarding the request and gotten to know what's going on. Just a little background, I'm not sure if everyone on the select board knows, but we had money that was approved by the select board to our committee. And then we got flooded last July. So all the funds, pretty much all the funds except for the installation of the pickleball court went away. So now with our DRB rulings, the pickleball courts are almost done. They sat there. If you haven't gone to Brown's Court, please do and go take a peek. The only thing that there's roughly $22,000 worth of work left to be done. And it is the chain link fence. It's the 60 arborvitae trees to be planted, some grass seed to be put down, and a spigot for water. So,
2 benches
and 2 benches. So exactly, 2 benches and a picnic table with concrete pads underneath. So we had gone to the Conservation Committee and asked for those funds to fund those projects. As you know, after 2 years, prices have gone up dramatically after they were bid. But anyway, we've gone to the Conservation Fund for those items. And we're here to ask you to approve the Conservation Committee's recommendation. Is that true, Judy?
I think let's speak.
Sure.
We've got one now. Okay, go ahead, Judy.
Right. Yeah, and we should back up and just remind people that this was complicated because we had an informal meeting and then a meeting where we actually voted on and approved the proposal, but that was deemed to have been inadequately warned. And so we had to meet again. And at that time, additional information was provided that led some conservation commissioners to not want to install the concrete pads. But my understanding from the 3 Parks Commission is the concrete pads are very helpful for people who are differently abled. It enables them to more easily access those amenities, the benches and the picnic table, which is specifically designed to be ADA compatible. It was pointed out that there are other ADA compatible amenities that don't need concrete pads. So in the end, in order to move forward with this proposal, we had a compromise and agreed to fund the 3 parks, or recommend that the select board fund the 3 parks proposal without the concrete pads. So that's where things stand now.
So I have 2 questions that I'm hoping I get really quick answers. The first is, could you very briefly describe the purpose of the concrete pads and what they're under and why?
The concrete pads are under two park benches and a picnic table. They provide stability for the park benches. Years ago, when I was on recreation, we put some Richmond Women's Group, put some really very heavy benches at the park. A couple of days later, those benches were in the river. And we did have a police officer that was a diver, and he went and got them. Stability is important in my mind. It makes it easier for the mowers, because to have the concrete pad, they're not having to trim. The benches are not going to be moved around. They're going to be attached. If you look around town, we installed as part of the three parks, 2 new benches and a picnic table at the round church. There were no objections. Bench out here, there is probably 4 benches that have been previous at the round church on their concrete pads. It allows, they're not gonna get muddy. You know, if you look at many benches that are on grass, you know, it's natural for people's feet to make a trough, get muddy. If you're in a wheelchair, particularly where the picnic table would be, the wheelchair can wheel right up and be be able to use the table.
Thank you. So that was the first one.
These are wheelchair, I just want to add a little second. These are picnic tables that the benches don't go all the way to the end so that the people who are in wheelchairs can get there.
They're accessible tables.
They're totally accessible. And the manufacturer recommends putting them on concrete because they last so much longer. As remember how rotten the ones in Volunteers Green were? So they are the ones that are recommending concrete as well.
And it would be very difficult for somebody to roll a wheelchair over muddy, rutted grass.
Absolutely.
So my second question is, so your plan has gone through the DRB
Twice.
and,
Trees were not the correct number.
And the select board.
right, so it's gone here and there because it's us. And that site plan and permit include the concrete
Yes,
pads?
it does.
Nothing has been changed.
The objection, we never heard any objections until the Conservation Commission meeting last week. That's the first time we had heard any objections about the concrete pads.
Okay, any questions from the select board about the concrete pads?
Sorry,
Caitlin's brow is very slow here, so.
again, you can always tell what I'm thinking. I might have missed the part of, why are we objecting to the concrete pads?
We are.
We're not.
No.
We're
Is-
not.
is-
but
is someone though?
A community member came to the Conservation Commission and objected to the concrete pads. She wanted benches that moved around, table that could be moved around, citing impervious surface. Well, the amount of impervious surface is less than these 3 tables.
And also they get bolted into the concrete, so you can't move them. They don't get stolen, they don't get damaged.
Okay, great, thank you.
Not unless you're really dedicated.
Unless you're really good and bring tools.
Okay. Melissa?
Huh?
Please.
You don't have to move these. No, I'll sit here.
And I'll sit here so the mic can pick you up.
Thank you. Hello, hi, I'm Melissa Wooliver, and I thank you for the opportunity to engage in polite civil discourse this evening. I live near Browns Court, and I have walked there several times a week, if not daily, for nearly 30 years. My village residence is a small lot in the village, and so I use the green space for recreational activities such as walking. Many people dog walk there, cross-country ski in the winter, and play with their children in the open space, just open play. The Three Parks Committee has been granted nearly $145,000 for the pickleball courts and the parking lot to be built at Browns Court. Now they're requesting $12,700 of Conservation Reserve Fund money. As a taxpayer who contributes to the Conservation Reserve Fund, I think this is too much for one project. As the money is requested, is mostly for pickleball amenities to the park. This is a tremendous amount of resources being allocated mostly to one sport. Most of the people who might come to play pickleball might not even be Richmond residents. And I think many Richmond residents would be surprised to know that conservation reserve funds are being spent on amenities for the park and not conservation. I didn't know that until I dug in and read how you can apply for the conservation reserve funds and found out the allowed other uses. And just for the record, I have been to 3 of the Browns Court Project Committee meetings over the years to voice some various concerns about this. I know it's important to go to meetings. So page 3 of the Conservation Reserve Fund application from the Three Parks Committee states that pedestrians will be able to walk the perimeter of the park. And I thank the committee for acknowledging that many walkers and dog walkers have used the park for many years and will want to continue this recreational activity. Right now, I've heard a couple different versions of whether that will be possible for the entirety of the perimeter. The parking lot that's going to be built will have, it's for 30 cars, and it will have a 10-foot setback as it shows it on the site plans. But I'm not sure that people will be able to walk on the east side of the parking lot to make a walk around the perimeter.
Mr. Chair, point of order, and I apologize, Melissa.
I'm almost done.
No,
Okay.
let Melissa go ahead and finish.
I'm almost done. So I understand that that plan has been approved by the GRB. I'm just trying to get clear because when you look at the drawing, it shows like you cannot walk around the perimeter, but it does say there's a 10-foot setback. I urge the select board to ensure that Richmond residents and neighbors of the park can continue to walk the entire perimeter of Browns Court, including along the east side between the parking lot and the park boundary. At a minimum, perhaps a small sign or a marker could show where the pedestrians could walk. This would help to preserve Browns Court for the many other users, in addition to the people who will be coming to play pickleball at our park. Thank you.
Any questions for Melissa?
Well, I have a follow-up question for the committee.
Okay.
I'm looking at the attachment to tonight's select board agenda. And I'm having a little difficulty, but can you tell me, is it possible? It looks like it might be to walk around the perimeter as planned.
Right now, there's over 14 feet from the pickleball court to the edge of the woods. And, just for curiosity's sake, because we want to make it handicap accessible, I looked up the ADA requirements for a sidewalk for accommodations, and they request 6 feet for a sidewalk. And Jay, Google it too.
Yeah, right.
Josh, can we pull up maybe the site plan, just because then
But
everyone's
point of
looking at the
order,
same thing.
This is
that
about,
discussion is not related
The
to
agenda
what-
item.
What we're here.
Not really germane at this.
it's not, that's what my point of order was going to be. It was not germane.
Okay. So, the question before us is, there's 2 questions. One, do we approve this at all? And second, do we approve it with or without? Does the select board have any issue with the?
Can I,
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Judy, could you
Oh, she's
please,
picking it up.
yeah,
Judy.
could you please talk about the other projects that have had been funded for picnic tables, which were not even handicap accessible, that the select board has approved for the conservation committee?
Sure, and I was going to say that in the language in the Conservation Reserve Fund policy, it doesn't just support, we aren't just obliged to support recreation, we're also support access to recreation. And so these ADA compatible amenities are important in allowing all people to have access to recreation. Even if they can't play, they can watch. But we've also supported the picnic table up at the ACF, the Andrews Community Forest, and the bench along the Beacon Trail. So the idea is that, recreation isn't just wildly flinging yourself around doing something active. You can also be sitting and bird watching or watching sports if you're not able to participate in them, or if you're elderly and want to sit down, you have that opportunity. So we consider those kind of ancillary pieces part of having access to recreation, if that makes sense.
Okay, so select board, and we will be taking comment from the audience, but as essentially it's, do we want to spend this money? And do we want the version with the pads or without? Do you have any strong preferences on any of that? Do you think we should approve this? Okay, do you think we should approve it with the pads or without? Well, while you're thinking, I just want to make a note of something that comes up fairly often. The Conservation Reserve Fund is not exclusively, as was just said, for recreation. It can also be used for historic preservation. The money could be being spent here in this building as well. So not that this is happening, but we don't want to imply that it's an endless piggy bank specifically for Browns Court. And we should be thinking about, are we using it in the best possible way? Okay, Karen.
I would like to request that the select board please approve this with the concrete pads based on the resolution you just passed about people with disabilities. I strongly support having benches or even picnic tables for people with disabilities, because we don't have it in our own park here. So this would be the only park that we have a picnic table that has a concrete pad for a disabled. Denise, correct me if I'm wrong.
There's one at All Round Church just recently.
Picnic table?
Yes, it's wonderful.
Congratulations on putting that in. I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, I agree, Karen. I think it's a great point. Go ahead.
Disabilities is key. If you don't agree, if you don't approve the concrete pad too, they have to go back and potentially have a permit amended, and that'll be a third time. I really think that would be kind of ridiculous. I really support the benches too, because people who are maybe older, who are trying to get out and do some walking, but need to take a break every once in a while and sit down, having a place for them to sit and rest so they can continue to exercise is very key. So I strongly ask you to please use these conservation funds for that, because people who can walk the Riverside Trail and sit on that bench might not be as, they might have more energy and more ability to hike than somebody who has to walk on level ground around.
Yeah, we're kind of looking at a different population there.
Correct, that
Yeah.
you're serving a different population. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna call on Caitlin and then I'm gonna call on Pete.
I just want to comment, the part that I'm not questioning is the cement pad. I think the cement pads make a lot of sense, and I actually really like the entire idea of the park. It looks like there's the baseball field is also brought back to life, and there are many families that would benefit from an inclusive table. So I'm not actually worried about the table. I am just trying to remember all of the reasoning behind each of the trees, and the cost to me is like, I just am pausing for a second, but I'm getting there.
That's Fran's.
One more thing was
Sure.
the Conservation Committee has criteria for conservation and usage of funds. And if it passed with their approval, then that meant that it met the criteria for using conservation funds.
Okay.
Okay.
Pete,
Absolutely put them on concrete pads.
Right? We didn't pay him.
I'm gonna give you one good reason why, beyond what Fran said. If they erode where you step, got a trip hazard. If you go over to the Volunteers Green, you'll see those areas that do not have concrete pads are now trip hazards. So if you're gonna have someone that's handicapped, now you've created, an issue there, and the stability of those benches are really important. These benches are not cheap, and having them anchored in place will ensure that, they stay correctly positioned. If people jump on them, they won't move. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Put them on the pads.
okay.
Can I speak of the trees?
Yes, please, thank
The
you.
trees,
For
are
the trees.
our attempt to address the noise issue.
Okay,
Okay.
right.
And
Thank you
They're
for,
going to be on 3 sides of the pickleball courts. They will not be on the ball field side. They're on the neighborhood sides of the pickleball courts.
right, thank
And the
you.
neighbors are okay with this as a sound remediation effort.
We,
Mhm.
yes, and we are,
And some of are here tonight.
Right.
we've tried to keep the neighbors involved as much as we can.
Right, and I applaud that.
We've tried to reach out to neighbors. This is a big deal.
Okay.
For Richmond.
Okay, does anyone wish to make a motion?
Jay, this is David. I move to approve the request to use $12,703.07 from the Conservation Reserve Fund to purchase trees, garden hoses, and benches with cement pads to be installed near the pickleball court at Browns Court.
I think we have a second.
Is Bart, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by David Sanders, seconded by Bart Hill, to approve the request to use $12,703.07 from the Conservation Reserve Fund to purchase trees, garden hoses, and benches. Nice. To be installed near the pickleball courts at Browns Court. Please
So
state your
long,
name and
Josh.
your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, I.
David, I.
And J.I. Thank you. We're gonna move on.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
you're welcome.
everybody.
Thank you, Judy.
I'm gonna jump back for just 1 second to the previous item. God help us. It always frustrates me when I can't call on everybody. And sometimes you'll have 5 hands up, you go through them all, and then you look up and there's 6 more hands. Sometimes it gets to the point where it's just like you have to say stop. Now, Chuck, I totally validate you have an extremely valid thing to say. And so I'm glad you said it. So my apology. I just can't always go, that one valid, that, oh God, no, not that one. But thank you for
I can go 50-50, Jay, so probably caution's a good idea.
Okay, the next item keeps these same people here. It's the discussion of management of the pickleball courts. And they suggest organizing a small group of enthusiasts. I don't think you'll have trouble getting some of that small group to help maintain the courts and schedule time for groups on the courts. They would be volunteers and not a committee. They would be responsible for sweeping the courts and removing any standing water. They would also work with groups requesting reserved time on the courts, which could use in the senior center, Mr. G's physical education classes and camps. The request for reserved time would go to Josh's office for final approval. Having volunteers work out the detail of the schedule would alleviate an administrative duty that Deputy Town Manager Duncan Workwell would likely otherwise be in charge of. Duncan, I thought you were really, that was your favorite thing of the day. Is that true?
No comment.
You're muted.
Well, it
Okay.
is, yeah, in general, yes. Taking care of pickleball courts is one of my favorite things to do. So.
Okay, Art.
I think it makes sense. I have a question for the committee, or maybe for us. Do we intend this to be residents of Richmond or anyone?
Okay, I'd like to speak to this, because this is sort of
Mhm.
my brainchild, but I have, after I've been thinking about it, was actually approached by a couple of Richmond pickleball players, and the Richmond pickleball players are really excited about these courts. And we do not have a recreation committee. We do not have a recreation director. Had we had either of those, we wouldn't have to worry so much, but I want us to be good neighbors. And I think it's really important that we do this well. And that when those pickleball courts are ready to play, we are not causing neighborhood issues. So my thought is we would have some Richmond pickleball players, and there are 3 or 4 that are really willing to do this. They would look after the courts. They would work with the community senior center. They now play in Huntington. They play during the school year in Campbell's Hump. They would work with them to maybe allot them some time. They will work with Brian Godfrey, who, the
Does a unit.
teacher he does a unit on pickleball. His unit would be in the school gym, but then he could, once the kids know how to play, he could bring them out once or twice, or whatever, to the pickleball court so they could have the real experience. This group, if a neighbor had an issue, they would first go to this group and see if it can work it out.
And Fran has reached out to one neighbor already. He respectfully declined, but that's the intent, is to have a neighbor on the committee as well.
And they would be, if something to be maintained, or if there was an issue come budget time, if there was something that really was needed for the pickleball courts, they would be the ones that would come to the budget. It wouldn't be a committee that you would formally appoint.
No.
Baseball has been, since I've been in Richmond, and I'm gonna say over 50 years. I thought we were gonna be here 5, but baseball has been run that way since I came to town. They are not a committee appointed body.
Right, or Little League is not a town appointed body.
Yeah, baseball / softball. And soccer, which when I was on the rec committee, we started soccer in Richmond, and then that sort of became its own committee, so that it would be a way to facilitate the use of these courts, not affect the neighbors or deal with any neighborhood issues and maintenance issues.
Okay. This is not anything with a motion. Does anybody in the audience have any further questions? Eric?
Is this on the, like, they're gonna be volunteers doing this? Is there gonna be like one head volunteer that could be the only contact with Josh? So you limit how many of the volunteers keep bugging the town staff about
Yes.
different things?
Yes.
We would work the,
You create a little side committee that's not appointed by the select board.
Right.
Gotcha.
Fran, would you be the chair of that? I mean, who's the
I went on vacation for 2 weeks. I thought she was gonna kill me when I got back.
You got enough in your hands.
if somebody will become president of the Richmond Historical Society. No, but I think we would get the volunteers together and create a little bit of a charge so
Okay.
that they would know what.
I have no problem with that. I think it's a good plan. Okay, any other questions? Okay, you're off the hook. Let's move on to the next
Thank
item.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody's
Thank you.
absolute favorite topic. Stormwater. Sometimes lost in the hurly-burly over the Southview stormwater, we overlook that that is not the only 3-acre area in town. It is the 3-acre area. Well, I believe the mobile home park also has, there's some 3-acre areas that have homeowners associations and some that don't. Greystone has a homeowners association. And so they have put together a plan. Now, at the last meeting of this body, which Josh was not able to be at, there were questions from some neighbors about land downhill from the development that's been affected by stormwater. We heard some frankly kind of scary testimony about cataracts of water coming down the hill and washing out otherwise developable property that's now not developable. So Josh checked with Keith Oborn, our zoning administrator, and the proper course of action for those residents is to review the state stormwater permit for Greystone. That permit was approved when the development was first constructed. So the 3-acre rule is about cleaning the stormwater, not redirecting. Okay, I think that's the main takeaway from this.
A fair assessment.
Yeah, the Greystone has a homeowners association, and we have 2 agreements submitted to Greystone for their review. One establishes that the town and the homeowners association will be co-permittees, and they will be respectfully responsible for their property. Town will be responsible for the town right away. The homeowners association will be responsible for the private property. And the division of cost will be 44.5% town and 55% homeowners association. There are details of these plans in the packet. It's important to note that these plans are over a year old, so costs have likely increased. Is there anybody here from Greystone who wants, yeah, these 2 gentlemen, come on up and tell us about it.
I'm Tom Bednar from the Greystone Association.
George Young. I'm Bednar and George Young. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so yes, a year or so ago, we had a plan devised by the engineer from Cass Partners or whatever they are, Cass Engineering. And it was to meet the requirements of the 3-acre rule. And as you said, it's not a brand new infrastructure. The infrastructure is in place. It's been there for 25 years. It's mature and hasn't been modified for that time. But there are new requirements out of the new legislation for the 3-acre rule and regulations. So there is enhancements that need to be made as part of that construction. So the engineering plan, preliminary engineering plan, feasibility analysis was drafted by Cass. And we reviewed it last year before legislation was happening at the state level that we kind of quiesced everything about while they contemplated changes that really didn't result in much that affected our particular projects. All right, so the plan is here. We've had copies of it. We don't have the engineer here with us to just go into deep questions, but we can describe if you want to go through the various elements that make up the bulk of that work. We can do that very quickly. But really what we're after is, as co-permittees, we want to be able to get your approval for proceeding with the NOI. October 1st is a cutoff date for some reimbursement of engineering and licensing costs that we'd like to keep alive.
Right.
It's not likely that we'll close the plan with the state with their review and possible iteration. So that would extend beyond that, but we can keep it alive if we submit the plans.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that should be our goal. So questions from the select board? Kara?
I believe when the Greystone Road, the main road washed out, some changes were made to the stormwater system, like something changed with a catch basin in that area. You had to do some additional engineering to shore up the road itself. You had to go out of the right of way to do work on private property. This is all my recollection, just from sitting in a hearing, in a select board meeting from that. So my question to you is, not that I'm opposed to the town go into this because you have a level of responsibility, but my question is, I know the homeowners association hired CAS to do work for them. That bill is going to potentially be paid 45% of it by the town of Richmond if the grant doesn't kick in to cover that, right? Because you're responsible for 45% of any bill associated with this. The town of Richmond historically has had their own independent engineer review plans to make sure that it is meeting their interpretation of the regulations as well. So my question is, I think you still have some time if you haven't already, had the town engineer review these plans versus the homeowners association. Because I think it's key, because you represent all of Richmond's responsibilities of that 45%, to know that the plans are a second set of eyes would possibly have a different recommendation, or is aware of other regulations coming down that we should be aware of ahead of time versus playing catch up after we've made some changes to a system. So that's just my only comment. If the town engineer hasn't reviewed it, I think you should have. And that was the comment that the neighbor had made at the homeowner who had washouts. It wasn't just about his washouts, but was about, has the town engineer signed off on this? That was all.
We don't really have a town engineer. We
have a guy we use.
We use Tyler for a number of things. We use a lot of engineers for a number of different things. So I think it's good points to look at a second set of eyes, but the way I look at this is KAS is a licensed certified engineer. It's going to put their stamp on the plans. It's their job to know the rules, the regulations, and how to meet those rules and regulations for the 3-acre permit rule. So I don't know if we necessarily have to review the work of a licensed engineer.
Don't know how much it matters, but I believe the town actually hired KAS Engineering to do the slope stabilization and the washout mitigation in, I think, 2015, the washout that Kara's referencing.
It was before my time.
Yeah.
You also hired Cash to do the floodplain mapping and the calculation for the Winooski River and the issue that the federal government's engineer made an error with. So they are a reputable engineering company. I'm just saying, you guys historically on other projects that the town was having to review and approve have had engineers, and you've hired different engineering. Tyler is one of them, and you've got many others that you've had through the years. I'm just asking, what is a criteria, what triggers the town saying, oh, we gotta have our own engineer review this or not? That's all. Just making sure you dot your i's and cross your t's.
I had a related question. Was the town a signatory to a contract with KAS for this work?
No, typically my understanding for talking with attorneys, the way this works is that the homeowners association really drives the train on these types of situations where they're supposed to be the ones that are getting the engineering done, hiring the contractors, and the town is essentially reimbursing the homeowners association for that work. It's been sort of flipped at Southview, which is where I think that we sort of get a little bit of confusion because the town is kind of hiring those contractors, whereas the town is a really a minor part or minor permitting, 45%, 55%.
And a reminder that the cost split is based on our share of
Impervious surface.
impervious, sorry. So at the end of the day, whether regardless of where the mitigations are or the structures are, we pay our share and the homeowners pay their share, right?
Yeah, correct, for initial permitting, engineering and installation. And then I think the maintenance agreement looks at it as where are those structures located? So the town would be responsible for the structures that are within the right of way. And the homeowners association is responsible for the portions of the structures that are outside of the right of way.
So that's why I asked the question. So not that I'm accusing anybody of malfeasance, but is it possible that somebody given a choice between putting it in the right of way or out of right of way might say, oh, let's put it in the right of way and the town will be responsible for maintaining it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that close to how they designed the engineer came up with his recommendations for it. I think he was looking at the flow of water, but
Nor are you an engineer.
I mean, my understanding from talking to Steve about, where he put, he's looking holistically at where the water can be sunk, not necessarily where it comes from. He's trying to hit the numbers. And it's just a naturally, I believe he's choosing them where there's access to both the water and to a solution for the water. So if you just look at the cost estimate, it's fairly evenly split between infrastructure that's added to the right of way area versus infrastructure that's on private property. But, these are all estimates in terms of
Sure.
net cost.
Yeah. David, you seem to be thinking.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I can see the steam coming off his head. I'm mindful that this, the clock is ticking. And I am, as chair, I'm just one voter, but I'm in favor of accepting these. I've reviewed the plans and not speaking as an engineer, they look reasonable. And the division of cost seems reasonable. So, but I wish to make a motion.
Jay, this is David. I move to approve the plans for the Greystone 3-acre permit.
Do we have a second?
This is Bart, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by David Sanders, seconded by Bart Hill to approve the plans for the Greystone 3-acre permit. Any further? Don't see any. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, abstain.
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
Jay, aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
Just because of my,
I hear you.
yeah, sorry. I just don't want any kind
It
of,
took me a minute.
yeah.
You're gonna submit the plan.
All right, we'll submit the NOI. There could be back and forth with the date over the details, and if there changes significantly, obviously.
Make our meeting ready to
Come
go.
back.
It's still in terms of let's let it season, we'll come back.
We have to.
Yeah.
That's
we'll
what
do
I
that
was.
Yeah.
What they are, we'll come back to the select board. The board approved them, I think, we about this time last year to go over. And then we'll have a further conversation about the agreements, but if there's any changes you guys request, we'll talk about that.
Very good.
Right.
Awesome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we moved item H. So up at this point, so the sequence will go discussion of creating a sign policy. Then the hearing to consider the grievance from the police department. And then the other fun topic for tonight, parking. The Chuck and Company, thank you so much, and John, and anybody else who's here from the parking committee, thank you so much for all the work you've done. Let's talk about sign policies. We don't have a sign policy to adopt as such right this second. I'm going to, if my computer will cooperate, digest the portions of our current ordinances that pertain to this. Come on, computer. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share. Okay, so what I'm showing here is everything in our zoning ordinances that pertains to signs. So all non-exempt signs require this with general restrictions All non-exempt signs require zoning permits, so we do need to talk to Keith about the Black Lives Matter sign. No blocking official traffic signs, constant and direct lighting, no illumination when premises are closed, no neon flashing, moving, et cetera. I'm not going to read all this out loud, but this is the stuff that we basically have about where can it go, how high can it be, cannot interfere with official signage. You can't paint. We, for example, couldn't put the Lord's Prayer rock out because our town ordinance actually banned signs on rocks. If anybody wants to put up a Lord's Prayer rock, we'd have to do a,
Been done.
yeah, Bristol kind of has that. Then there are district-specific regulations. One sign per lot. This is going back to Matt's point. No, was this Kara's point? Sorry. Kara's point about one sign per lot. You're absolutely right. We are in those districts. So that's another thing we'll need to look at. Freestanding signs. We get questions surprisingly frequently from homeowners who live on heavily traveled roads such as Heinsberg Road. And my heart goes out to those people. They want to put signs out that say, for the love of God, we have children in this area. Please don't use your engine brakes and lower children down, etc. But there is a limit to how big the sign can be, where it can be put, and so forth. And so things like you can have a 4x6 sign, but it has to not be in the town right away. It has to be at certain heights. So there are a lot of rules about what somebody can just put out there. Directory signs, only allowed at Bridge Street and Railroad Street and Bridge Street and Jelena Court. Standards. Maintenance and removal. You have to take down signs for defunct businesses. The signs have to be in good condition. And legally existing signs that don't meet current standards may continue, but are subject to non-conforming use or structure rules. So any permitted sign that requires a zoning permit may display non-commercial content instead of the usual commercial content. So this is a catch-all of everything that in the zoning regulations relates to signs. Now, one thing that's been proposed by, I think, a couple of people here is maybe it's time that we carve this out of the zoning regulations as a whole and have a freestanding sign policy. Just so it's easier to find if you're on the town website. Sometimes you're looking in the index for sign policy, you don't find one, and then you realize it's buried deep in the zoning. So, Caitlin, you did a little looking at this over the last couple of weeks. Do you have any other thoughts to share about what a sign policy might state?
No, I use not GPT, I use Perplexity, I think, to look up any information that we had on the historical sign information and then recommendations of what to include moving forward, and I shared those out, but
yeah, I have a document here with some this. So this is this your document?
You're not showing it if you're.
Oops.
It should be.
I thought I was sharing my desktop. I guess I was sharing the document.
No, I put that together with a few links, because I was under the impression you were looking, like, we've got a lot in our zoning regulations that you just saw about signs, what they can look like, where they can be, how many you can have there, and I think those need to stay in the zoning regulations. I think that's the appropriate place for it.
Okay, maybe we just need to put an easier to find index on the town website.
Well, what I thought you were looking for was more like what we were talking about in the first agenda item, like when is it government speech versus not government speech, and that's for the LTT. They call it a flag policy, but you could easily make it to be a sign and flag policy. That would go over that, it's the select board of the government's rights for this policy, or, yeah, for the policy to put out a message or a flag, but not just, it doesn't open up to a public forum where every single request needs to be followed.
Yep, and I think the research that we did was more around like what existed and if there was things outside of the zoning committee that it was in the files for things, and what we should do if there was something missing.
Okay, so but Josh is going to bring up the flag policy.
This is really what.
Can you make it a whole lot bigger?
Sure, and this sort of, I think, is the crux of model VLCT policy. Find my zoom.
What rather?
Yeah, no, it's. There it is. And apologies, I didn't realize that what I posted had a, you had to sign in, because I think I've always signed into VLCT, so it came up from a, where did I just put it here? So the objective of this flag policy is to legislative bodies to display flags in municipal property according to their own established standards without opening flag displays to outside third parties. So there's a much more information on this website about that, as well as they've included a model flag policy. Which does just.
Let's help them, they just a tad bigger, yeah. Okay, Bart?
I'm pondering the meaning of the term or the phrase, their own established standards. In that,
So we would have to establish those standards,
presumably.
which is kind of circular.
Yes,
Point of the policy, right?
I would think.
Yeah, I think it would, I mean, this is, I looked at it sort of like a start, where you guys want to go from here, what questions do you have? What more do we need to add to the model policy? What could
Well, clearly,
for us?
the two signs thing. Is right now, as our current policy states, can't have, if you're in those districts and the town center is, we can't have two signs up, and we've got the town center sign that I believe a Boy Scout put together a few years ago as an Eagle project, and we have the Black Lives Matter sign.
And the sandwich board.
And the sandwich board that says dog taxes are due and stuff.
The exempt policy, I was just looking at what is exempt. It looked like there was an exemption for temporary signs up to 60 days, so the sandwich board ones are probably exempt.
No, they're under a different area. Can I just
Yeah.
let you know?
So,
They're under a different area, the sandwich boards. They're just supposed to be taken in every night. So that's why the Black Lives Matter sign is hooked to concrete blocks. It's not meant to come in and out at night, so that negates the sandwich board sign.
Right, okay.
Sandwich boards are allowed in addition to the one sign because they are supposed to come in and out every night. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thanks, Karen.
Jay, can I make one of
Please
those,
do.
since this is something you're.
No, please do.
I have a little bit of knowledge here. What you're talking about, a policy versus changing zoning ordinances. It's very important you know the difference between the two. The policy that you're talking about would be about what you're trying to speak about to the public versus what is allowed for zoning regulations. If you want to talk about zoning regulations and allowing more than one sign on a per lot, you're talking about going back to your planning commission and having your planning commission spend a year or two analyzing it and seeing the impact that it has on all other properties in town, because you wouldn't want the town to not have to go by the same standards as other commercial properties, residential properties, etc. So the zoning regulations are a much bigger beast that you're talking about for every single lot in the town of Richmond, compared to what you want to have is a policy that says, we as the select board have determined at this point in time with these select board members that this is our policy on our public speech on the front lawn. Whether you can have that sign or not is not for the select board to decide, it's for the planning commission to determine zoning regulations and come forward and make proposal to you. Now you can make a request of them for them to look at this, but you should not be making those decisions without it going through the proper channels. That's my own opinion.
Okay, thoughts, gentlemen, lady, ma'am?
That's helpful, thanks, Kara. And I'm still just like digging into the exemptions part of things, and I'm trying to understand the pieces of that.
Just a point of order, I was thinking of that before Carol brought it up, and looking at what was warned, talked about creating a policy. So I'm just curious, in the interest of time, what is happening right now?
We're chatting about vague outlines and frameworks of a policy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think Carol brings up a good point. What's the, if there's going to be a motion, what might?
I don't see a motion likely to happen.
No, it's discussion of sign policy.
So members of the
Creating.
select board, there's the overall town sign policy as under the planning commission's aegis, and then there's the policy for the town center law.
Take your term just so that everybody's clear. You're talking select board policy versus zoning regulations. Can we
I
keep
think
those
that's why
two things?
I think that's
You
what
said
it-
zoning policy. So I just want to make sure
Okay.
it's a select board policy and it's zoning regulations. Thank you.
Okay, so, in the framework for a town center policy, there are a number of points that have been brought up. Quantity, content, probably other things, but, those are the main two things that came up. Do we want to explore writing a policy that says that the town center can have the official directory sign? We already have out here, plus one sign expressing town goodwill, or call it what you will. I'm not feeling creative right now.
So I think that would be a change in zoning regulations to allow the town center to have two signs.
Right.
Whereas if you could do that, you could discuss that with planning commission, like Kara said. But the other option, the other thing to consider is, if you're allowed a second sign, how do you make that select board speech or government speech? And what do you, to Bart's point, what are your parameters for that? What are you saying for that?
Yeah, so we're at square one. What are your thoughts about where we want to go?
I will only observe as a policy with standards set by the select board, the next select board could rewrite it. And there's no, it's just, they'll rewrite the policy.
And it could be whatever speech that
Yeah.
board wants to have.
Yeah.
Because it might
As I
change.
mentioned earlier,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I guess I'm trying to separate the two things here. I'm wondering, because we do have laws within the, or restrictions within the, zoning committee, what is missing, and not just so we can do what we want to do with the sign, but like what is missing that we feel like would serve a broader purpose. I think I'm trying to separate the two in my mind, and there's something to be said around, do we need a sign policy? Does that make sense, or should it continue to live in zoning? I guess I'm just not as familiar with the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense that what's in zoning stays in zoning. That's the number of signs, that's setbacks, that's the technical things. I think if you want to talk about messaging and what the select board is able to do for messaging on town property, that to me seems like its own policy.
Gotcha.
And then because the risk if you don't have a policy and you basically allow anybody who comes before the board to fly whatever flag they want or whatever sign they want, then it becomes a public forum and anybody's allowed to do that. Versus the select board very clearly saying, no, this is an area for government speech.
I see. Are there state laws that support this today? Yeah. And I would assume that without our own local law, that we would follow state law. Okay, thank you.
Well, wait, I guess when you say state laws, what kind of laws do you think?
Around like signs on government property, what wording or
Like the
anything?
messaging of it or?
Yeah, things that might overlap essentially.
Yeah, so for the messaging of it, I mean, when we first put up the Black Lives Matter sign, the attorney was very clear to make sure you had the resolution in place. That it was government speech and it wasn't just anything goes, anything can go on. So, and that's actually a national law that he was trying to follow, and that's very much similar to the VLCT policy. So that's what we're trying to follow, or what the board's been trying to follow.
Gotcha.
Okay. So next steps.
Go ahead.
Oh, Carrick, by all means, go ahead.
Since you really don't know what you want to do for a policy, you didn't really know your own sign regulations at this point in time. I really would want to ask, even if we have to go to petition to ask you to do it for the voters, I'd like to ask the voters if the town of Richmond should have their select board put opinion messaging. I'm not going to say political signs because that's a hot trigger item. Whatever we're going to call this based on the state laws or the national laws for municipalities having opinion signs, we'll call it that, on town property and maintained by the town, put it to the voter. Don't put it about Black Lives Matter. Don't put it about anything else. Put it about, do Richmond residents want signs that state the select board's opinion on the town front lawn? Period. As simple as that. Get the answer to your question before you create a whole policy or before you try to change zoning regulations. If you really cared about the majority voter, you'd ask them. That's just a thought. I mean, and why go through all this trouble? Because it's a lot of work to actually write down what you're going to try to do right now.
Okay. David, Barb, Caitlin, thoughts on what Cara said?
I would like to know first a little bit more detail about just what's at the state level. So I'd like to do some research there to understand what would be overlapping and then what our policy would be reinforcing essentially. And I'm not asking you to do that, Josh. I'm curious before I can make a statement around my opinion.
Well, I'll just note that curiously, my first note in this discussion to myself was, should we consider a town vote or referendum on some of the sign issues?
Sure, I don't particularly have a problem with that. I don't wanna, if the majority of the town wants no signs out there, there are other ways for the Richmond Racial Equity Committee to make their message known. I'd prefer to keep the sign, but I don't wanna say Jake for his opinion is more important than the whole town. Okay, so, Caitlin's got some digging she wants to do.
Yeah, I just need some information.
Okay, then we'll move on to our next item, which is the. Let me make sure I've got it stated right. Hearing to consider a grievance from the police department, possible executive session. The employee involved has requested that the grievance be handled in executive session. Are there any opinions regarding that from the select board? Does anyone wish to make such a motion? Okay, well, we have two options. Discuss it publicly or discuss it in executive session. I see people are scanning through the memo.
I think respectfully, Sergeant Cohen, I think this is a public conversation that can happen.
Okay. Bard and David, before we open it up, any thoughts?
So that's predicated on the belief that it does not place either the town or the union at a substantial disadvantage, presumably, which is part of the requirement for an executive session.
This is a tough one.
Yeah, our attorneys have advised that they don't see this as something that would merit an executive session, that they don't see premature public knowledge, as was already stated, would place either the town or the union at a potential disadvantage. We have the option of going into executive session after some public discussion, should that urge arise. So absent anybody in the select board saying, yes, let's go into executive session, I guess we will discuss it in public. Chris?
Yeah, just a point to raise. We've been asked to address this in collective bargaining, and that is a significant aspect of.
No, maybe just say who you are.
Yeah.
My name is Christopher Hoare. I'm the state representative for the New England Police Benevolent Association.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry.
Can you repeat what you were saying? Because I wasn't.
Yeah, we are currently under contract negotiations, which is significant to executive session, and this has been a topic of collective bargaining. So.
And who asked to go into executive session? I didn't hear whose name that was.
Sergeant Matt Cohen, the employee.
Oh, okay.
You don't recognize him because there's no dog here.
Yeah, Duke's not here.
And I'm out of uniform, because actually on vacation this week and I came in camping.
No, I just wanted to make sure who all the players were and.
No, I was the question. we've really given you nothing about what the grievance is. The first question was how would we handle it?
So Jay, it is, you know, I don't think the memo contemplated this. Collective bargaining is supposed to be confidential until you reach a certain point of it pass, right? So if, in fact, if we accept that the topic is confidential and related to collective bargaining, then it should be confidential in executive session.
I guess the only devil's advocate I'd say to that is that this is a grievance about the current contract and interpretation of the current wording versus future wording in future contracts.
I can clarify too, if you wanted to add public, it's fine.
Okay,
With the caveat that it's not related to collective bargaining of a future contract, it's
current
related to interpretation and application of the current agreement.
Yes, this subject has been, this particular topic is part of the currently, the current collective bargaining agreement that's an evergreen has been a topic of the current success rate. So
okay. Well, seeing that you don't object to it being public and we don't object to it being public, would you two like to come up and state your grievance?
You like to start?
Sure. This grievance is as it relates to particular language, longstanding language within the current collective bargaining agreement. It will be a part of the successor agreement. So there's some significant practice. And we feel like it is pretty clear and unambiguous language, and we feel that the work being done that's being billed is applicable to that particular section of the collective bargaining agreement.
Can you explain? I'm sorry, you know what's going on.
Sure. So similar to your point, actually, you know, why go through the whole work of creating a policy, you know, put it to the residents. This collective bargaining agreement has been, this particular language is as it relates to extra work where the municipality, I'll use one example, where a construction company may come in and hire a law enforcement officer to provide
On-site security.
Police services.
yeah, more visibility for construction sites, so pedestrians are safe, motorists are safe, so on and so forth. And that officer performing that work gets compensated a certain amount because the municipality bills a certain amount, and in return, some of that billed amount goes to the officer.
Can I ask a question, Jay? Is that okay? So-
No, absolutely. I think we do need to back up and
So is it because the officer is working for somebody other than Richmond?
well, be that as it may, it was negotiated in the contract. Right, so the issue at hand is that Heinsberg and Richmond have an agreement to interoperate and provide coverage from each respective department of the other's territory. And we are currently paying that at the standard rate, that, you know, their salary rate. Heinsberg, I believe, is paying a couple $100 extra.
You think that when the agreement was first put in place, when they were covering basically 100%, that it was a $500 per month stipend for the officers. I think that's still currently in place, even though the agreement is now reciprocal.
Okay, so that's the status quo. The contract currently says that officers who are working, and the key term is contract services, are paid a time and a half. So if an officer was working a parade, an officer was working at a construction site, that would be time and a half. That's, I think both sides agree on that. The question is the fact that there's a contract between Heinsberg and Richmond to provide interoperability, does that also, because it's a contract, merit time and a half?
So
Is that did I explain that okay?
Without going into some more detail, yeah, I mean.
can I make sure I understand this?
Okay.
So are we talking about when he's in Richmond, working in Richmond, because we have a contract with Heinsberg, we can't have our own town employees at the rate we hired them to do town work? I want to make sure because the whole word of contract here, when we've got one officer in Richmond, I would hope he's only working in Richmond. Is it outside his regular hours? Or
So,
within his regular hours?
go ahead. So this we're looking to have this applied to when the town of Richmond is also providing police services to the town of Heinsberg, and they are not having their own police services at that time.
Okay, so wait a second. We have one officer
Covering two towns.
who has to service all of, forget about Heinsberg for just 1 second, because they got their own, okay? We have one
Sometimes.
officer in Richmond with a Richmond uniform on and a Richmond cruiser that is having to help service Heinsberg. And when we go service Heinsberg with our one officer, our contract says we need to pay him more. I mean, this is what I'm hearing.
Well, that's the union's interpretation.
This is what I'm hearing is what the discussion is. So how often, because we should have, I'm all about numbers, right? Statistics, data drives the answer. How often on a monthly basis is Richmond covering for the 4 officers in Heinsberg?
Just weekly. How many times a week?
How many times a week? That is a challenge to say, because this is fairly new. It's only took place as of July 1 of this year.
Okay.
In that there's been a 1 week straight and then a few days here and there.
Okay.
As covered when needed.
It all depends on whether or not a Heinsberg.
This is in the collective bargaining agreement, which is a public document, right?
It is. Yes.
Can we pull up the section we're talking about
I just want to understand.
while you're talking?
So you're saying this started July 1, that's why you're bringing it to the select board's attention.
Mhm.
And as of July 1, Heinsberg doesn't have officers on when you're covering, or you've had to do like mutual aid kind of thing and help out.
This is times when Heinsberg has no officers on and we are providing police services to the town of Heinsberg.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
I think I just observed though, 17.5 is silent on do they have other police or not?
Sure.
I think
That's
it's
the only
immaterial.
time that's the only time the municipality is billing Heinsberg for Richmond's police services.
There's nothing in this clause that speaks to that, is there?
Do you want to start talking about other aspects of collective bargaining?
No. So I'm looking at this document,
Yeah.
17.5. Where does it say?
May offer employees the opportunity to perform contract assignments
Such as.
blah, 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 et cetera.
But my point is, it's silent about whether they have 0 officers or 20 officers on duty. How is that relevant to this clause?
Well, that was my question. That was my
I
question.
think it is.
I think it goes back to your,
Employees assigned to such duties shall at all times be considered to be working for the scope of their duties for the town.
I think it goes back to when the town is billing Heinsberg for services.
That's fair, but then we should not be talking about whether they have an officer on duty or not, because it doesn't matter.
But that's what we bill.
That's that intermunicipal agreement that you've established.
That has nothing to do with this clause in
That- no,
collective
I
bargaining
agree.
agreement.
Well, that's
okay.
where that's where we differ. That's the question.
They've increased the workload of your employees. We've struggled to keep employees here long time. They're receiving compensation from another municipality off of the work that their employees are doing. So
That's a fair point. It just has nothing to do whether they had 1 officer or 0 officer or 5. Does that clause say number of police officers in Heinsberg?
I don't have to answer that.
Well, where is the hook for number of officers in Heinsberg?
But
I submit that it's not there.
Okay.
I would respectfully disagree that I agree, the number doesn't have to be there.
Yeah.
I think the contract has to be there. And when the contract is there and the town is billing another entity, it doesn't matter who it is.
So you're going to the second sentence, which is fine. Yeah.
That there's a contract and the police officers are being asked to work that contract.
I get it.
that section should apply. Is my,
I understand your point. I just think it has nothing to do with officers or not officers.
Officers or not officers only applies to that said contract.
Let me jump in. I have no lawyer, nor do I play one on TV. I believe that there is a point that Matt and Duke and any putative future officers could be given more money for, you're being asked to patrol all the way to the far end of Heinsberg. The question is, would it be, I think it'd be equitable to pay the Richmond officers the same rate that Heinsberg is getting to work over here. Right now, true or false, Josh, the Richmond officers make less to patrol Heinsberg than Heinsberg officers make to patrol Richmond. Is that right?
I don't know, I wasn't sure paid off there.
Okay. But I'm just wool gathering at this point. But I'm saying that we're gonna pay a full time and a half. The operant phrase that I see up here is such as crowd control, traffic control, event management.
Can I just clarify one thing?
Oh, please
Sorry, Jay. It's not time and a half.
Oh, well, right there it is.
I understand that.
Okay,
But this is when someone is currently working.
okay.
So what we're actually saying is they would receive a total compensation of time and a half, but you're already paying your employee straight time
Mhm.
for doing that service. So it's actually the only additional is halftime.
The
Additional
incremental increase.
halftime.
Yeah. So Jay, I disagree. I think whatever Heinsberg pays their officers is immaterial to our collective bargaining.
I would agree with you.
Okay, well, then
But I understood what you were saying.
what I'm trying to say is I appreciate that it is probably more work to patrol two towns than it is to patrol one. Regardless of how many other.
It doesn't matter.
Right, okay.
What does the collective bargaining
Well,
agreement say?
I'm looking at it from a different point of view, just in philosophically, but getting back to the collective bargaining agreement, the phrase contract assignments such as crowd control, traffic control, event management, patrolling a whole nother town through a reciprocity agreement doesn't really seem to be the same thing as crowd control, traffic control, event management. And that's what I keep running aground on.
Well, I think, and there's a plausible argument to be made here, the phrase performing contract assignment work. So when our officer is in Heinsberg, are they in fact performing contract assignment work?
That's good.
I think that's the key phrase here. And your position is, because you have a contract, we have a contract with Heinsberg, it must be, and we've assigned them
Mhm.
to work under the authority of that contract,
Mhm.
then your conclusion is it's contract assignment work. Is that fair?
yeah.
Okay. So Bard, you have infinitely more experience with this kind of thing than I do. What do you think our next, we're hearing a grievance.
And you guys can also gather information, go to executive session, to discuss your thoughts, so you don't have to make a decision right now, you have time to make a decision.
You have hands up again. too.
Oh, hands up. Chuck.
So if you're covering in Heinsberg and I'm in Richmond and I call in to the Richmond office, do you respond to that call?
Correct.
Correct, what? You do respond to that call?
Yes.
Back in July, I lived on Bard Owl Lane, which is a road that goes into Dugway Road.
Mhm.
Back in July, I had a friend that wanted to borrow my dump trailer. I couldn't get out of my road because cars were illegally parked across from the intersection. State statute.
Correct.
I call Richmond PD.
Mhm.
It's a day in the 90s. It's a Saturday. For Dugway Road, it's a triple witching hour. 90s, Saturday, beaches are closed. Burlington. I call Richmond. Nothing. Strike one. Richmond sends me to Shelburne. Shelburne dispatcher says, "Why are you bothering me? We're not coming out to Richmond." Strike two. She says, "Call the state police." I call the state police. The state police tell me, "We're really busy today. We're not gonna come to Richmond to take care of this." I'm stuck in my road. Connect the dots here. If I can't get out with my dump trailer, the fire truck can't get in to put out my house.
What date was this?
I can give it to you, but not right now, and I apologize for that.
June 20.
The other part of it is, if I have a heart attack, Richmond Rescue can't get in to take care of me. Your only priority as working for me, the taxpayer, is to Richmond. You should never be going.
He might not have been working.
So, sir, I can address both the concerns. I'm only working 40 hours a week plus some overtime as it comes up. I'm the one and only employee right now in the town of Richmond. Okay. When we had a second officer, for the short time we did have a second officer, we had 80 hours of work to cover. Those 80 hours are applied to the highest call volume times that we have. We can't assume there's going to be calls at a certain time, certain date. We go by past data. Now, we've also taken, this is the next topic, where we'll cover the steps we've taken since your incident to address the parking on that road. But there are times that we are off and Heinsberg is off. So times that Richmond police are off, there's a contract that the towns have between each other to cover each other's towns.
Just turn that like.
Outside of those hours, if neither town can cover, state police are as our backup plan. They are only coming for emergencies. And a vehicle in a roadway and not be parking you in your driveway is, they don't deem it as an emergency. That's their policy to take up against them.
Of course I do.
I understand your point of view.
State too.
Now,
I mean, you guys saying,
Now,
here's the invoice, buy my house.
as a taxpayer, and if your select board has entered into this agreement and in these contracts, that's between you and your select board of what you want your police department to work on. Your select board drives the police department as far as what we have been given work to do. So we have given to our work from the select board to cover both the town of Richmond and town of Heinsberg if Heinsberg has no officers on, and we do.
Denise.
Denise Barnard, I live at 127 Jonesville Estates at the very bottom of West White Hill.
Mhm.
And when I come home at night, sometimes I can't even turn to go down West White Hill. It's so bad. Kids are running around. They're parked illegally. They've pulled out the signs. They've moved rocks. I've called 4 times. 4 times I've called Richmond. Haven't been able to get through. Then I was directed.
The next agenda item.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was,
Item F.
okay, but I'm just saying, I've called 4 times, never have I gotten any response from Richmond. I was sent to Heinsberg, they had answering machines on. I was sent to Shelburne once and state police 3 times.
This is the next agenda item, but I want to, we need to talk about the grievance. Era and then June and Matt.
The only comment that I have is if it isn't the contract. If this isn't a contract, if you're deeming this as that's not what this is between Richmond and Heinsberg by interpreting this as different than what the union is and the officer is, then what do we have between us and Heinsberg if it's not a contract? Okay, so if the only word in this whole thing says contract with a somewhere else, that's what he's doing, whether he's patrolling their streets or directing traffic, that et cetera ties it to everything. So my concern is we have one officer here who's saying this, who's asking you to uphold your union contract with him. And I think the community is finding out for the first time that this officer is working in Heinsberg when we think he's in Richmond, and it's not his fault.
June.
2 questions really. Is it a contract or is it a reciprocal agreement? Because if it is a reciprocal agreement, you're saying it's a give and take. Do you have a contract with how many hours our officers are gonna work in Heinsberg?
It does not specify a number of hours. I'd classify
But it is a contract.
Oh.
What's it called?
Pull it up and see what.
Yeah.
Reciprocal agreement.
That matters.
This
is
intermunicipal agreement.
Intermunicipal agreement. So
And ours is a contract is an agreement.
Hey, Matt.
what,
She had 2 questions.
my other question is, if we only have 1 officer, can you adjust that intermunicipal agreement when we aren't obviously being covered when we need to be covered here?
I think that's something that can be discussed in the future contract conversation. That won't happen now.
Well, it's also management, I think. So we've had a number of public meetings between the town of Richmond and the town of Heinsberg to talk about a mutually supportive relationship in police. I don't know, 8, 10, whatever it is. And those are publicly warned. It's not a secret. We've also talked about them in select board meetings. But it just, that's the background bringing us to where we are today. I think for the purpose of today, this grievance is pretty specific to this clause and what does it mean? That's how I look at it.
So,
Matt?
just so I'm getting this straight, we have one police officer in Richmond, and I gotta say, he's doing a great job. I've met him, talked with him a couple times. It's a hard job that he does. We have one officer, they have four. Yeah. What I understand is Richmond receives funds from Heinsberg for his time working with Heinsberg, correct?
And we send Heinsberg funds for their officers.
Correct.
Yeah.
So why Richmond has a very hard time holding on to police officers? You're being compensated, Richmond is being compensated for his time being there, give him a share. You're forcing him out by not giving him a share of that money.
Could we see what the reimbursement language in this agreement says?
It's not costing the taxpayer any more money for him to do that.
So this obviously isn't at the level of detail where it would say 1.5 times an officer's wages. It's saying $70 an hour for patrol services, right? Because that's what we're talking about, I think.
Is there anything beyond G?
Yes.
So this worked in two directions for a while. So I'll only say what it looks like to me. This looks like Heinsberg is going to pay us $70 an hour, regardless of which officer is working and how much they get paid, what their costs are, compensation, health insurance, whatever. $70 an hour. Then the other collective bargaining agreement, if we conclude that this is a contract and it seems like it swims like a contract, quacks like a contract, and flies like a contract, it would seem to me it's kind of a contract. In which case, then it's 1.5 times, and if we put the two together, it appears to me, at least tonight, that whether we lose on the $70 an hour or come ahead on the $70 an hour, it doesn't matter. We get $70 an hour revenue and we pay 1.5 times.
Well, again, I just want to clarify too. The town, this is only when Matt is working, he's being paid his straight time pay, right? So we're really talking about an additional half-time.
Right.
Oh, I get it.
Additional half-time
Right.
would come out of that $70,
Right.
not,
Well,
No.
no. If he's going over there and we're billing $70 an hour, the idea is Heinsberg's paying us for his time at $70 an hour, as opposed to Richmond's gonna pay for part of his time and Heinsberg is paying for part of the time. I think the framework of this is, as soon as he's doing their work or working over there, we're billing them at $70 an hour. Currently, he's getting paid, 100%. But the collective bargaining agreement looks like he should be paid 150% for those subset of hours. And then you'd have to code those hours differently,
Right.
sure.
right?
And
In order to show what you
And
did.
I don't know about the back end of the billing, how it's been, because Josh has been handling the billing from Heinsberg.
Mhm.
But I believe if I'm just covering whatever the time is, I'm still in town, there's no calls over there or no need for me to be in the town of Heinsberg at that very moment. I believe at the $50 an hour rate, if I'm still in town, not going over there, but just covering
That's correct. You'd be available
for them.
There's no other.
If there's no, it's a 50 rate, and then if I go to their town to a call, then it's 70. I think that's how it gets applied.
Are both of those contract services? What's the phrase in the collective bargaining agreement again?
I think they
Contracted services.
contracted, because we are still providing that service to them, we just are not we're covering their town for calls for service.
Or is it general services or is it patrol services?
That's my question. What do you think this means? Contract assignment work, is it both of those?
Is it on call or is it active in Heinsberg?
I'd say it's anytime you have a contract going from one entity to another.
Okay, Kara?
So here's where I come back to the original question that I asked you. How much is he actually in Heinsberg versus how much is he just covering for Heinsberg? And now you get my point. Because when Richmond is being built to cover Heinsberg, he, even though he's doing calls in Richmond, he's saying he gets to get 1.5 for every hour Heinsberg has Richmond covering it, having nothing to do with the actual patrol services there. So let's say of his 40 hours in a week, if he picks the hours that, this is smart, Matt, don't give me, I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong here, but he can pick to work the hours when Heinsberg has no coverage and get paid 1.5 every hour that Heinsberg is billing, that Richmond is billing, that billing is going back and forth for the fact that Richmond is covering Heinsberg. So it's not just about when he's physically in Heinsberg doing patrols. If you go by the two different kinds of contract services, it's any contract service. So it means any time that he's working while Richmond is billing Heinsberg to cover. That's why my question was key.
So can I make a point? It's on the union contract, it says the chief may offer. I am not the chief. Chief of the town of Richmond is currently Frank Bryan. And he is the one who's been making these assignments.
Okay.
Right, I wasn't saying you, Matt. That's why I'm saying it.
Okay, but I want to make that very clear.
Clarify that he's not the one making the schedule. Choosing to work only hours.
Correct.
Yeah. Would you be allowed to?
But he could be doing
Correct.
that non-intentionally, wanting him to cover time periods when they don't have officers on, is all I'm saying.
I
So
think it's 1.5.
it's,
Yeah, I think you're right.
I just wanted to, Matt, I said I'm 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
So the question was, that I just leaned over and asked Josh, if we want to grant the grievance, there's no motion in the packet that addresses that. But Josh says, we would just make a motion to grant the grievance, and what was the other part?
Well, I would also want to be clear about, is it applying to patrol hours only or patrol and general services?
So I'll just throw what it looks like to me. I'm assuming this agreement has the force and effect of a contract. It includes 2B and 2C. They are both services provided under a contract to Heinsberg, while the town is getting paid a different rate. It looks to me like they are both, what's the CBA language again? The collective bargaining agreement, whatever it's. Contract assignment work. So with a straight face, it seems to me both 2A or 2B and 2C, whatever it was, are contract assignment work. There's two types. They're both 1.5 times the regular rate of pay. And at the end of the day, whether our revenue covers it all or not, it sort of doesn't matter because we have two different agreements.
General services are.
Okay. So I'm just testing the wind. Is the sense of the select board to grant the grievance or to do, we have a thumbs up here, thumbs up there. Okay, so we can cut to the chase. We do need to define some terms apparently a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you make a motion to approve the grievance for both patrol and general services, that would be fairly clear.
Is it, I wish,
Is there a definition of general services? Can I just ask that?
Yeah, it's in the,
Because general services might actually be having to perform paperwork or something, and if we're not doing that, we get out of that part.
let's see, I think we did define it. Each priority shall provide general police services to cover shifts as requested, only if the providing municipality has staffing levels available to meet the request.
But it sounds like there are times when there's one officer for both towns.
This is an assumption. I'm assuming that when there's an officer in both towns, either town is billing the other town.
Correct.
That's why this is only as it relates to an officer being in Richmond and no officer being in Heinsberg.
Or it could be if, well, this won't happen. If there was two officers in one town and one in the other, there would be a general services there, because there would be some support covered. Sort of an imbalance, but when they're equal, or when they're equal 1 and 1 or 2 and 2, yeah, there's no money changing hands.
So I'm hard pressed to know what general services are, but let's assume that the chief knows what they are and has assigned them, whether it's general services or patrol services.
Fair statement.
The patrol services was really, thinking back to the origination of this agreement, really 2 years ago, there was discussion about, that was when Richmond had no officers, right? We said, well, we need Heinsberg to be there if something happens, we have a call. Okay, it doesn't have to go right to state police. So Heinsberg's on duty, they've got officers, there's a call in Richmond, they'll come respond to the call, and then they'll go back to Heinsberg. Patrol services were, we want parking enforcement, we want speed enforcement, they're gonna be assigned to Richmond for 2-3 hours doing something specific for a patrol. So I think that that's really the gist of general services.
More like an on-call versus a
Exactly.
24, yeah, 8 hours straight patrol shift, yeah.
Okay. Does that,
I think, Matt, do you know it when you see it? When you're doing one of those, do you know that you are?
Yeah, I believe it's easier to understand. General services is when you call for help, this is who's coming for your help. Versus patrol services is you're assigned, you're in the town, you're going in and you are there to patrol that town.
Performance.
So with general services, could that be considered on-call versus patrol services directed?
When I used the term on call, I was using that as it's more of a nuanced terminology that that'll some of us know.
On call has other contractual language we should avoid.
Sure. You can look at it as you're on call for the other town while you're on duty for your primary town.
Yeah.
Without going into what on call means in the other.
Actually, yeah.
So
okay,
seems to me we grant the grievance.
is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And that's for both general and patrol.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion from Bart Hill, seconded by David Center to grant the agreement for both general and patrol services. Okay, please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Jay, aye.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, we will see you on the 26th.
Yes, I believe that's the date. I have it.
Tuesday.
And
It's been a while, so it's nice seeing you.
I'm staying here for the next issue.
I don't,
you guys.
I'm assuming, I don't know.
No, okay, see you back.
No, I know.
The next issue is
Item F.
discussion of parking signs and enforcement on Dugway Road, West White Hill, and the eastern end of Cochran Road. We have all read the articles on Front Fork Forum, and some of the people present have lived the nightmare of not being able to get out of their roads, people taking down signs, people parking where they shouldn't, people blocking, basically making it so there's no possible way an emergency vehicle to get through. So we've asked, first, we're gonna just have Josh give an overview, and then we have Pete Gosselin here and Matt Cohen here to talk about their respective parts of it.
Kind of overview. I'm sorry.
What do you're? Okay.
What's the problem, Josh?
Well, I think Jay summarized it.
Okay, I summarized it just fine. Matt, what are we doing on this problem?
So obviously recreational parking during these roads are an issue. It's summertime. They have notoriously been an issue. I think seems like from my feedback from residents, they've actually increased over the years, most likely due to social media and the knowledge of where these swimming holes are. Most of the people who I interact with when I go down to do enforcement are tourists, and it could be, I'd say tourists, anyone that's outside town of Richmond. Because our tourists in the area, the people who repeatedly come back to our area know that our parking regulations and do a good job of staying on the designated areas. It's usually our people who are unfamiliar with the roadways that park where they're not supposed to. We have had, since May 1st through August 13th, we have I pulled our numbers of how many times we've done parking enforcement in the area. The town of Richmond, Richmond Police alone has done 25 dedicated patrols to just parking in that area. That's not every single day, but that's a lot for 3 roads. For the entire town, that's a lot.
How many cars have you towed?
I didn't pull the tow numbers. I've had ticket numbers. There's 141 tickets that were issued to illegally parked cars during those patrols.
That's between May 1st and August 13th.
August 13th.
A question. I know there's a concept of a warning and of a ticket. I thought at one point we were doing warnings before tickets, but have we gotten one of those ticketing?
At this point in the season, it's been just tickets and sometimes tows. I know there's a couple vehicles that did get towed that are parked hazardously. That'd be, around a sharp corner, things like that. The
Blocking the road.
Parking really badly in the road. But some of the issues with getting tow trucks up here. If an officer wants to tow a car, it's probably 45 minutes before we get a tow truck up there. That tow truck takes 1, maybe 2 cars. There are times I'm down there and writing 25 to 30 tickets to cars that are parked illegally. I can't get enough tow trucks in there to pull every single car out of there. That's not feasible. Let alone if tow trucks will even come out. Sometimes they'll tell us no. The other piece we have about 50 legal spaces where cars can fit, of which 12 are up the upper gorge and 38 are down by triple buckets or lower. But again, those are usually full, and I have 25 to 30 cars that we could ticket or tow that are parked in the roadway. And doesn't matter what time of day, when it is. Typically afternoons are busier. And weekends obviously are busier. Since your concerns, both town of Heinsberg and Richmond has offered officers to come in as overtime for the busy parts of the weekend from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. to come in and try just to do parking enforcement. I've done some when Officer Newchick was here. He's done some. He's done some as a Heinsberg officer as well. And Constable Squires is also out and about and writing tickets and enforcement when he's available.
And to be able to write tickets, you have to be a sworn police officer. You can't just be somebody who's got a hobby.
Correct. As the ordinance is written, we could change the ordinance.
Andy Squires has been through the academy. He is
Yeah,
he's scary.
Our constable, yeah. How many people actually pay their tickets?
Oh, not many.
That would be a great question for Susan.
Well, so here's my point. If we're trying to influence people's behavior, and the theory of tickets is, oh, you park there illegal, I give you a ticket, you might not do it again, or you'll be less likely to do it again, right? But if you never pay the ticket, where you're from Massachusetts and you never come back here again, it's not a particularly effective intervention because they just go, whatever, right?
We have the language to continue civil action against them. How much that follow-up takes place, that's now into the town hall realm of coming back for civil action.
Fair enough.
John?
What is the charge for the tickets? How much are each of those tickets?
They're $50 a piece.
However, that was only raised to 50 on March 13th, 2023. Prior to that, it had been 25. Yeah.
Time to raise it.
Well, Bart's question is, it's time to raise it again. I would say yes. John?
I don't know if there's only one kind of ticket we can give for parking, but if on November 2nd on Church Street, I forget to bring my car into my driveway at night, I'm subject potentially to a ticket on a clear night. That's correct.
Correct.
And so if I would be hesitant if you raise the ticket very high for, say, the gorge, that is the only ticket you can give for some minor infraction in the village.
So we would need to basically establish a punitive district versus a regular district. That's a bad phrase, but something that allows us to do higher tickets in problem areas.
That's my suggestion if you raise it.
And you carry both a municipal ticket book and a state ticket book?
We no longer have municipal tickets. Let me rephrase that. The state of Vermont has gotten away with the official municipal ticket. They've moved to a state ticket only,
That's a
standardized ticket. We have a town ticket that we actually do print out and hand out to individuals that directly goes to our town.
Okay. Most important point, it's never personal with me. Thank you for what you do, and then that was.
I've been doing this job.
But not at you.
I've been doing this job enough. I understand your frustrations.
Fair enough.
And I wish I could do more for you guys, but I only can do so much.
The other problem is that the reason, I'm also on the parking thing. The reason we have a 2-mile stretch on Dugway Road that is a tow-away zone is for safety. We need to be able to get a fire truck up there. We need to be able to rescue up there. We can't be ticketing cars or giving people warnings that are parking in that 2-mile stretch. And presently, and I'm not saying Matt is doing it, but we're ticketing most people. And I'm with Bart 100%. And is, you know what, a $50 ticket? I go to Burlington today and for dinner and a movie with my wife, I pay $50 in the parking garage.
Yeah, it's basically,
What's an incentive?
right.
So I have two comments. First, is it possible, this is a legal question, is it possible for us to have zones with different price tickets?
Right.
I think it is, but we have to change the.
So that's, well, so it's a question first, is it legally permissible? And then if it is, we might target specific areas that are notoriously unsafe with higher tickets. The second one, since it's, while Burlington towing companies seem to patrol around all the time, sort of like hunting.
Yeah.
We don't really have the same kind of service in Richmond, so I guess I'm contemplating the question, can we make an arrangement even with one of the services in Burlington on sunny Saturdays and Sundays, come out here when we know there's gonna be some cars?
Right.
And just, I'll tell you which ones to tow when you get here.
I see really 3 ways forward that you guys can really address parking on Dugway. And you guys are gonna hate me. And West White Hill. But you guys are really gonna hate me for the suggestion. But
landmines?
No, Richmond is a very great place for recreation. People have found out that and they like to come here for recreation. Make it Richmond a very welcoming place for that. Let them park on one side of the road of Dugway Road and really sign it up, say this is where you can park, this is where you can't park, and make it a one-way road for part of the year when we know we're going to have issues, but we need more parking because we have a limited amount of parking spaces and people are parking where they want to, which some places are right in front of someone's driveway and they can't get out.
Okay, I'm gonna put Matt on hold and the questions on hold for just a second because poor Pete Goslin has been sitting here on the call all night and I'd like to hear, Pete, your thoughts about this.
I'm just listening. I am totally opposed to that road being one way. It's 3.35 miles long, and someone that lives in the halfway point that wants to go to Jonesville is very, very much inconvenience at the obsession of the swimmers. So we got to also put the residents first. That's my opinion. It is a town road, and it does serve the residents of Dugway.
But luckily Matt has 2 more ideas.
I had 2 more. That was a nice one.
I just figured
Okay,
that was
well, I don't like that one.
Nice one. Option 2 would be that we continue where we are with just a little more signage and we continue to do parking enforcement as it comes up. We put as many people on it during the summer as we can and kind of status quo, which is we try to address as best we can with what we have for services. And parking 3 is we really close it down and let the tow companies loose and say, hey guys, we let the select board validate a couple of companies and say, you guys can tow. They collect the fees and kick it back to Richmond. So we don't have to deal with parking tickets. They just collect a fee and that part of that fee comes back to Richmond.
I like that.
I like that.
Matt?
Question with a possible follow-up. How many tow companies do we have on contract to tow?
None of our tow companies are actually contracted. They are all based on at will.
I mean, is it all the local, like in Richmond tow companies?
Pretty much.
We thought about like trying to go a little bit further out to get more availability for tow trucks. Because I think that's the only way you can solve this is when you start towing cars and it gets expensive.
So typically when police ask for tows, we have to go through a police rotation, so we don't give somebody more work than others.
Well,
And-
how the tow industry.
So we would ask our dispatchers to call the next one on rotation and they pick up the phone, say, yes, we can come, or no, we can't. That's where if the town wants to say, these companies, we want to contract them in, that would be where you could say, we want this one company.
Okay, you have a follow-up? Okay, Kara?
Good, thanks.
I think there are 3 tow companies in the town of Richmond that I'm aware of, but one, two.
There's Be There.
There's Be There Anytime,
Well-
Blackboard,
Blackboard.
and what's the 4th one?
We also use ENS. They're out in Bolton.
Right,
But they're not Richmond.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm saying there's 3 in Richmond that I'm aware of. And I would really recommend you contracting with the 3 in Richmond to start with. And to say, have at it. Anytime you can cruise, they got a guy on Saturday all day long, just towing cars, cause they're gonna make their money and they know it. But my question is back to how many tickets are being written, cause. I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
141.
John was, no. Outside of those roads with the parking issue for the summertime, how many are like being written in the village or somewhere else?
I didn't pull those numbers.
So here's my question. If it's not that many, let's be real, if the majority of it is this summertime parking issue, then I think you should just jack up the parking fee to an outrageous amount of money and have the tow companies have at it. So slap them with $100 fee and the tow companies have at it. And Richmond's just gonna sit back and keep collecting the $100 from the tow companies from every car that they've towed. Done. Officers don't have to be there writing tickets. They can be doing other police duties.
Okay, I've got some hands up here in the room, but Marie's had her hand up a little while. Marie, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for letting me join. I appreciate it. I'm 106 Jonesville Estates. So I'm at the foot of West White Hill. I have a beautiful swimming hole in my backyard. I counted 33 people on the beach on one of those hot days, probably the same day Dugway was a mess. I love having the beach in my backyard. I love letting people come swim in my backyard. But we need some signage so that it's safe for us to turn off of West White onto Cochran Road. We need parking that's safe. So right now there's 6 safe spots at the foot of Cochran. Reality is it's not really enough. But I don't want to see more because more people in my backyard is not really sustainable either. I don't know if we've talked about spreading parking out along the rivers. It's not all in one place, and maybe it won't change because there's only so many great swimming holes. In addition to addressing the swimming hole parking, I'd really like to see speeding addressed on Cochran Road. We've had a motorcycle doing like 70 miles an hour back and forth. Similar story, call the Richmond cops, get sent to state police. So I guess I just really want to make sure we've got a solution to people parking illegally, which makes it unsafe for us to turn off of West White onto Cochran Road. I'd like to see more signage so that it's safe and so that we reduce the number of people who are at the swimming hole. I think there's a reasonable number, and I think 33 is okay, actually. It's the max I've seen is 50. But anyways, that's all.
Okay, Denise?
First, I want to, I think there's 5 or 6 members of the parking committee here. They worked incredibly hard to come up with policies for Dugway Road, for West White, for Cochran, to get safe spaces, to get signage. They've done a commendable job. And when we had officers, it worked. It worked. It's not working anymore. It's awful. So I was so frustrated. As you know, I've called 4 times. I don't know if you know, but I've called 4 times with no help whatsoever. So frustrating. I personally have not even gone down to the swimming hole, and I haven't swam myself. My grandchildren have swam. I have not swam because it's so out of control. The people are so rude and disrespectful. They're not local. I know a lot of people in this town. I hardly know anyone when I go down there now. They're not local people. Over by the bottom of West White Hill, they have totally ripped the signs out. They've moved big boulders. Poor Jane Miller. I feel so sorry for that woman. What she's been going through this summer is absolutely inexcusable. What that woman has been put through. People taking their clothes off in her front lawn. And I mean, they're parking in her driveway. It's just like the Gilroys parking in their driveway. It is so out of control. They're so disrespectful. They give you the finger. They say F you. They leave their shit all along the road. And who's picking it up? The neighbors who own the private property. And I'm not yelling at you. I know you're doing the best you can, but something has got to be done. I was so frustrated one morning. I didn't know where to turn. I called Pete Goslin. And I'm telling you guys, you've got a gem. He and his crew were over there. They found all the signs they ripped out. They moved some of the rocks back. He and his crew put the signs up, which they had tagged. And I guess they cleaned them. And I mean, he was amazing that morning because it's so frustrating. Someone is going to get killed. The kids are darting out in the road. The parents, I don't know if they're drunk or what, but they're oblivious to their children in the middle of the road. And it's so sad. And I also want to share 2 doors down from Marie's neighbor. She tried to get on Zoom and she can't get on. And she wants me to share, I'm watching the meeting via YouTube, can't access Zoom. She said, block off the damn access to my private property. She said, the town and police have heard from me. She says, I'm so upset right now, I can't even speak. And she said, she's been given the finger. When she told someone who was parked right in front of the no parking zone, and they walked right across her property to go to the swimming hole. And she said herself too, she is not even bound down to the river this year due to all the people on my private property. And she said 30 years and it's getting old. And I asked her if I could share her comments and she said yes.
And John and then Ian.
I have a question, because I think I heard a solution. So, right, I want to understand the difference, Matt, so now if the police call a tow thing, it might be 45 minutes. Is there any reason we couldn't do the other thing and say, okay, Black Fort, okay, be there, here's the regulations. We have a relationship with you. If you tow people who aren't parked illegally, we'll find out about it. Go. I mean, that seems to me, if that just that simple dynamic switch, why doesn't that work? That would be great.
We could do that. It just would take a ordinance change right now.
Is there, okay.
A what?
That's
Or ordinance change.
But is there a legal reason we can't? Does it put the town in some legal jeopardy? It seems like a
That'd be
win-win.
a great question for a town attorney.
Because I think it would be really interesting, because then they're motivated to do it. It's quite efficient, the error is that they overdo.
Right.
And then we have to take it up. Maybe we do have legal jeopardy, but that seems to me to be a magic thing we haven't tried.
A good regulation in the ordinance of saying, this is what you need to do as a tow company and what documentation you need, what you need to give us every time you tow somebody, who you need to call to document it. I think all that needs to take place in an ordinance change. We won't be able to get that done today, but we might be able to get it done for next year.
We got an ordinance change for the parking. I mean, this sounds like a, we mean business, change the dynamic, win-win for the town.
And then you just have companies apply in and say that you're an approved company.
Yeah, I like the idea a lot myself. Ian, go ahead.
Matt, you've been on Dugway doing tows, right?
Correct.
So just from what I've witnessed, I think it would be really hard for a towing company to be up there towing cars on a busy day without a policeman. It blocks the road when they're doing it. And you might also have to be a driver dealing with an irate person whose car is being taken away. And I know one of the tow services in town personally, and he's probably not going to do it. He doesn't like towing up there because for a whole host of reasons. So I don't think it's that easy. So that's one thing.
I don't think they do anymore.
My driveway is across from Triple Buckets, and since they put the signs in around where my driveway is, it's been greatly improved. People, for some reason, are really following the rules over there. I mean, me and my neighbor have put up some of our own things to keep people off of our side of the road, and people respect it. So, like, some visual obstacles have helped a little bit up where I am. But I think, not to be too extreme, but you might want to consider just banning parking on the road for a year. And I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I'm not sure people are going to get the message, unless you do something very extreme.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Those are good points. Maybe it is time to do it. Ian said. Pete?
I'm not sure how much time Andy Squires puts in as a constable dealing with just parking. But could you deputize a parking enforcement constable strictly for the summer months, totally funded by tickets and tows? And this would be this person's job, like Saturdays and Sundays, pretty much June to 1st of September, the hot times of the year. I think during the week, the police coverage should be adequate Monday through, whatever days you work, Matt, if that could be coordinated. But for these weekend things, you have someone on site that takes a picture of these plates, that makes these calls to these tow companies. Yes, they can't, physically stop somebody, but they've got record of everything that's going on. They represent the town. And that could carry forward for the rest of this year immediately. I think these cars need to be towed. This ticketing thing it's a joke. I deal with this all winter long. We have, and I'm not blaming you, Matt. It's the same thing. We have zero enforcement in the village. I've got cars parked all over these streets, and we're trying to plow. And literally, like you say, it takes 45 minutes to get a tow truck out. So we only tow the ones that we absolutely have to. We leave the Toscano, or excuse me, the Big Spruce parking lot has 6 cars every single morning, all winter long, in the same spots. We give them maybe 8, 10 warnings. They tear them up, throw them in the snow. They just laugh at us. And it's that goes on. That's basically, I'm covering the whole thing about enforcement period in the town. And that's also because we don't have a full police department. But to deal with this issue immediately, could we get a parking constable that handles just these hot spots, just for these certain times of the year and just for these weekends? Just a question. I don't know if that's possible or not.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do, because we've heard some actually pretty good ideas, or at least ideas worth exploring. I'm going to take a couple more comments. Caitlin has her hand up, and these two, actually, I'll take all three. Let's go Caitlin, Chuck, and then, sir, I forget. Matt?
Matt Buckley.
Okay, Matt Buckley, sorry. I'll remember that this time.
So I am on the parking committee.
Yeah, Caitlin.
I'm just thinking through like other things, and so someone said a paid parking person. I think I'm hearing there's a lot of people who are coming here. It's disruptive generally, not just in the places where they shouldn't be parking, but there's a lot of folks, and we're creating access issues, we're creating neighborhood issues and so forth. I'm just saying this out loud as a thought that's come in my head. Paid parking is an option that we could enforce, and there are companies that would partner and be the parking meter to enforce that. That means there would be paid parking. Other options, there seems to be a couple apps, and I don't know the legality of this. I've been trying to figure that out. It looks like it's pretty straightforward, but there are apps that citizens can take pictures and report violations, and then that violation gets reviewed by like a license plate number. That violation gets reviewed by a police officer or someone in the municipality, and then they're issued a ticket via mail. So just looking through some other options that might complement these things, but obviously we got to do something.
Okay, Matt?
I'm sitting here at this capacity, so first talk about parking committees. the issue is not signage.
It's compliance.
It's worked long and hard on signage. The signs are there, they're very clear. I don't think we need new signs. I don't think we need better signs. I see people on Dugway actually parking right in front of "you will be towed" signs. So I don't think we need more. I like the idea of much more aggressive enforcement by any means. Just now, I want to take my part in the committee. I want to put on hat that I am a Dugway Road resident. I've been for 40 years. It would be helpful if there was a way that the town could help educate some folks. A lot of people were writing the Front Porch Forum absolutely uninformed about what Dugway Road, what Huntington River even is. And so maybe I need to do a letter similar to what I did 3 years ago with Front Porch Forum, but someone needs to say, the Huntington River is not a state thing. It runs through and over private property. You can access it by state law. There's an easement for swimming, fishing. That's it. And and you can cross property to access the water by invitation. For example, the Lower Gorge Preserve invites people. I don't invite people, although I don't call the police, but I do see them cross my lawn. But it would be great if, I think it would be most appropriate, there's a way it could come from the select board to say, this is, we're working at this, folks, but please remember, this is not a state park. And my last comment is, as far as the paid parking idea, the reason I have a gut negative reaction to that is, again, it's not a paid park. We don't want everybody in the world to come here. We want to manage the people that are coming. So I would like to not see an open invitation for even more people coming.
Right.
And I'm sorry, one last thing. You can come to our swimming pool anytime.
And then last question, we're moving on.
Couple things, with my parking committee hat on. I wanna thank Pete and I wanna thank Josh, because I feel like this is a good core team that we work with. Pete's amazing, Josh gets things done for us, and that means a lot to us, and we're taken seriously. We had the previous acting chief meet with us at the parking advisory committee, and he said that 86% of the parking tickets in Richmond were on Dugway Road.
Not
So if
surprised
you're
at all.
looking for a general number, that's a pretty good one. Not to leave Matt and Ian alone with the crazy idea theories. You know what, if we're gonna put stickers on the cars that say you can come here and park at the racquetball court and play racquetball, then we should have town stickers on our cars that say you can park on Dugway Road or on East Cochran Road or wherever it is. I grew up in Essex. I know, don't hold it against me. But we have stickers on our cars.
For Indian
And that
Brook
means
Reservoir,
we got
right.
it there expensively. It means we went to the dump. It means we parked at the pool. Now it would mean that you can go to the Essex Reservoir. At some point, the residents of Richmond are carrying the burden of all these people that come here. And don't kid yourself, they don't spend any money here. They come and they leave. We did the survey. 80 some odd percent of the people said the only place they came when they came to Richmond was the Huntington River.
Yeah. So I think we've heard a lot of interesting ideas worth following up. Communicating to Front Porch Forum for our own residents, outsiders wouldn't. The idea of setting up a special constable whose job is to write those tickets. The idea of allowing towing firms to basically go down there and have at it.
Spillane.
If we explained to people that they couldn't park there, the problem would be gone.
Absolutely. So I think we should follow up on that. John, you?
The Pete Gosling's idea was about the enforcement person, the additional person, was to also give them the authority to have towing, because he said.
Right. Oh, I agree. Make note of that. Okay, so we need to move on to the next item on the agenda, but if you have other ideas about how to bring the hammer down on the illegal parking.
Hey, what's the next? I might go through a second.
Thanks. Ice. According to us,
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The highway summer work
Yep,
plan.
it's after 10.
Thank you. Our next topic is update on progress on the highway summer work plans. So Pete, can you give us a summary of how, what you've done this summer and how it's going?
Boy, Jay, you know how to clear a room.
Yes. You want a quick version? Or you want a detailed version?
Oh, nice quick one.
I can give you either or. The detailed one's quite detailed. March, April, May, June, and July are completed as outlined in that work plan completely. Included that one item that got ahead of schedule was the guardrail replacement on Southview Drive that you approved last year is completed. The seasonal paving is going to start at the end of August in about 1 to 2 weeks, which is all of Jericho Road. And we also were awarded an additional Class 2 roadway paving grant. So we have another 178 grand to add to our retreatment pot. So that I will be coming back to you with some options on where to put that. But as of right now, that money, that grant is going to go towards Jericho Road. That's the quick version. Now I can give you the bad news. If you want the bad news, here we go. Here's the bad news. In addition to where we're at as of today, unforeseen extra items that we had to do were number one, we had several failed culverts, large diameter, to be in fact. Grandview Drive had a 3-foot diameter culvert that failed. We had to replace. We had a driveway culvert that failed on Grandview. We had to replace. We had a large diameter culvert on Huntington Road. We had to replace. We had a cross culvert on Sherwood Forest Road that failed. We had to replace. These were not scheduled items. These are things that happen. We had sinkholes in roads and whatnot that caused this. In additional work that was added this year, we installed a new pedestrian crossing at the Railroad Street Buttermilk Building crossing. Excuse me. We added delineators in front of the Richmond Market. We put the pedestrian delineator on the double yellow line in front of Sweet Simone's, which I hate to tell you, but is completely demolished. They got run over by several trucks a week ago, and there's nothing left of it. So that was, I think, a couple $100 or $260, I think. It's not a good spot for it, with cars backing out into it and squeezing. It's pretty obvious. I think everybody knows. Additional work that we added this year that we wasn't planned. We shim patched from the Iron Bridge all the way around to Fire Road. We had wheel ruts that were measuring anywhere from 3 to 4 inches in depth all the way around both sides of that road. So because we got to let that go another year before that water project happens, we couldn't leave that road in that condition. So this again was extra work that we added on our schedule. So that, put our workload up there. Now here's the bad news. Mid-July, our brand new roadside mower with about 300 hours on it, completely detonated. When I say the word detonated, I mean detonated. To mow all our roads, it's about 12 weeks. We were into finishing week number 9. And the operator was driving the machine down Huntington Road, bringing it back to the shop, and it made a humongous bang. And then he almost lost control of it, and he was able to coast it down the hill to Heinsberg Road. Now, David, you're going to not believe this, but the drive shaft that runs the front axle, it's all-wheel or 4-wheel drive, but it's in all-wheel drive. It was in 2-wheel drive, but the axle turns all the time with the front axle with the drive shaft. The axle sheared off the pinion on the front differential. The drive axle went up through the oil pan, completely drained the entire motor all at once, diesel motor, and detonated it all the way down the road. We had to have fire department come out, clean up all the oil. Long story short is that thing is smoked. Here's the good news. It is completely covered under warranty because it's not even a year old. It had only been mowing since June 1st. Problem is,
Pete, Saab made mowers. Same thing happened to me once.
I have never seen something like this happen to that extent. I mean, it took the motor out, it took the front end out. Anyways, that is going to RJ Fournier next week. They have an auction this weekend, so they can't get it in. It took me 2.5 weeks to get this warranty stuff straightened out so they would cover it. I wouldn't ship it unless they were going to cover it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're in the $30,000 range. It's almost, they're going to take the engine out. They're going to put another engine in it. It's brand new.
Pete, would this be why we had Fran and Dave Thomas complaining about the not mowed side roads on like Hillview and stuff?
Correct. There's like
Pete, what was the cause of that? Was it a manufacturing defect? Did it run out of oil in the differential? Do we have any idea?
We don't know. It looks to me, what I could see, the pinion that comes out of the front differential, literally sheared off, almost like it was a defective, like that pinion shaft had a defect in the steel. It looked like it was just, you ever seen a piece of steel just shear clean? It just sheared off.
I have. And one of my Saabs did that on the interstate.
Well, I mean, this is at 20 miles an hour.
Oh,
And it went
20.
just straight up. Well, I'm sure went straight up through that oil pan, and it's a cast oil pan. It just, you could reach up and grab the pistons, Dave.
Wow.
Yeah, you should come look at it. It's at the shop. It'll be there the rest of the week. It's impressive.
Yeah, I'll swing by.
And then 2 weeks ago, we also had some additional work on Stage Road. We had a small washout. We were up there fixing that. I was driving the machine back down Cochran Road, and I smelled something, like something was burning. And I just happened to look out my rearview mirror, and I got a cloud of smoke behind me. So I stopped immediately. I've got oil spraying everywhere out in the underneath of this thing. So I limped it into Greystone Drive. Again, this machine's got a 7-year warranty on it. We paid dearly for this. I called Nortrax. They sent a tech out the next day. He said, yeah, you blew a pinion oil seal. Okay. He said, well, if you can get it to your shop, we can come down and fix it. So we added some oil. I dripped a little ways all the way to the shop, got it in there. They got into it. Now they found out there's a seal inside the transmission that blew internally, and it was over pressurizing the rear axle, which in turn was blowing the seal out the front transmission. And they called me today, and now they think a brake seal went. So again, this thing's down. So we've had to rent a small excavator to continue on this sidewalk project we're working on right now. And then way back in May, the Ventrac sidewalk machine that we purchased last year, which was brand new,
Awesome.
it had a sander issue through the winter. The sander wasn't working as a remote control speed pod. It wasn't working on that. We were running it in bypass. They sent a tech out twice this past winter, couldn't figure it out. And I told them, I said, well, you take it in May when we don't need it, and go take it to your shop and fix it. Well, they've had it since May. I've called 4 times, and every time I call, it's like reinventing the wheel. So can you tell me what's going on with it? I said, I'm just frustrated with that one. So we have 3 pieces of equipment down right now. We also have a dump truck that needs brakes, but that's kind of a maintenance thing. So here's the big question. Fran reached out to me about the mowing. I was pretty blunt and clear. I told her the machine is down for the rest of the season and that we're done mowing for this season. I know she's reached out to Josh and the board and feels there's a safety issue walking on Hillview Road. So I reached out to the rental company, which is Pizza Equipment, which rents the exact same machine. They do weekly rentals. We got about 2 weeks worth of work we did not finish. It's $4,900 a week for the machine, plus transport to and from. They were cutting the cost on the transport because they sold us machines. So they gave me a quote of $10,300 to rent a machine for 2 more weeks to mow the few roads we didn't get done. The only equipment rental budget we have is $10,000, which is earmarked for the gravel road plan. And we've already taken 2,500 out of that. So we're down to 7,500. I see it as, I don't see it as a necessity personally. I think, you can skip some mowing. It's not the end of the world. It's not like it's a blind intersection everybody's getting killed on. But if you feel that, you want to increase the budget, let me overspend by 10.5. We'll get a mower and finish. But we don't have it in the highway budget, and I really don't want to take it from another line item. Our budget, you know, it was tight for this fiscal year. We're trying to make up from 2 years of summer plans that we did not do. So as you see, what I just listed off, all that additional work that we've already done, all had a cost to it. So, so that's why I made that decision where I told Fran that, you know, we were done, but I know she would like to have more work done. So.
Bart?
Pete, this is Bart. You know, I totally get it, and you've probably thought about this, but I feel like I should ask anyways. For the leftover mowing, is there any plausible approach to contracting with somebody to just come in and get it done?
I mean, possibly. I don't know what they get. I don't know what the availability of contracted mowers are right now. They're all everywhere you look, they're mowing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
My only thought is instead of buying one, we sort of borrow one or
We get some
take
goats.
contract.
Hey,
So here's the big question right back at you, Bird. Show me the money. No, I'm sorry, but I have no budget for that. So, unless you want to create additional funds to either A, hire a contractor to do this, or B, let us rent one, do it ourselves. That's where we're at. So,
I mean, I think, Pete, if you contracted, if that was even available,
Yeah.
it'd probably be, would it be up near that $10,000, you think, for 2 weeks? I mean, either way, we're gonna overspend, whether it's $5,000
Yeah.
or $10,000, there's gonna be
Yeah.
additional funding needed to get the mowing done.
And I don't have an opinion whether it's better to try to lease somebody and their machine or
yeah.
lease a machine and use our people, but I don't know.
Okay.
Seems worth pursuing at least to know what it would cost.
Would you
Yeah.
like me to reach out and see if there's somebody that, you know, could
I
do
guess,
it?
how about this, just because if we wait too much longer, it's gonna be fall, the
Yeah.
grass is gonna die, and we're not gonna have anything to mow. Do you wanna authorize like up to $10,000 or 10,300? Oh, knowing that's gonna be over budget to rent the machine. And if Pete can find, you know, if he can borrow a machine from another town, or if he can find a contractor to do it for less, then we'll do it for less, but that might give a little bit more authority and then a day or two for research and then an action item. Pete, does that work for you?
I think
Yeah,
it works for the
it's-
three of
it's-
us in the
it-
room.
Well, it's ultimately your call to overspend, you know, and that's in 2 months, we're gonna be talking about, you know, scrimping every nickel that we can at budget time. We're gonna cut every line item $500 and, you know, so I'm already looking at this like, is this such a priority that we need to spend 10,000 on it? I mean, I guess that's your call. Not mine.
Okay, so David, the question is, do we want to hire somebody to do this up to $10,000 overspending the budget
Either hire or rent the machine.
or get some goats?
I think it might make sense, to make some inquiries to see what a rental would cost if we have the staffing and what some quotes would be for hiring it out.
Right, well, what I was thinking is if we do that and come back at the September 2nd meeting to move forward, by the time we actually mow, it's gonna be mid-September.
All the leaves will be going.
All the grass will be dying anyway. So I was suggesting maybe authorize up to 10,000, was it 300 Pete, 10.3?
Yeah, so
for
the
the
mower that they have available won't be available till September 15th. It's
Oh,
out,
it wouldn't
it's
be-
out right now. The rentals are all out, so that's the
Yeah,
next
because
available time
Yeah.
slot.
never mind.
Because really, by end of September, all the grass is gonna die and fall back anyway, right? I mean, maybe more October, but
Problem solved.
it's gonna die.
Unless we have a massive wildfire.
Don't even ask for anything like that.
No.
So
You're sitting
basically,
ducks for that, really.
based on the timing, yeah, because I guess if we mowed September 15th, the end of September. If we did nothing by October 15th, you're buying yourself 3-4 weeks for $10,000.
But
Yeah.
sorry, where are the locations that need to be mowed? Is it everywhere? Is it-
You will help you in predicting. That's what the town says.
Hillview Road, Williams Hill Road, Wortham Road, Cemetery Road, Collins Mountain Road, Mountain View Drive. and I think Christmas Hill. It's all the secondary outskirt roads. We do all the main paved roads first and work our way out, so.
Pete, are there any line of sight issues that are critical that we could do by hand?
The only thing I could think of would be the intersection of Williams Hill and Hillview, but I mean, I've been up there recently. I didn't see an issue. I mean, if you want to roll through every stop sign, yeah, you're gonna have an issue. But if you're gonna slow down and stop like you're supposed to, no, you could creep right out and go. So,
Pete, is there any way we could borrow something from another town, or are they all using their mowers right now, probably?
so Heinsberg has the exact same mower, and they just took the transmission out of theirs last week.
Cool.
They blew the transmission in theirs. Jericho contracts, Bolton contracts. Williston has their own, but we don't do anything with Williston. That's as far as I know, as far as immediate proximity towns.
I could ask the town manager in Williston. I was just talking with him this morning, like, see if they got anything we could borrow. But yeah, I think it sounds like to pay $10,000 to get it mowed into September sounds a bit.
I don't think it's a good use of town money.
Yeah, at that point,
No.
it becomes moot,
It's very hard to defend.
I have a weed whacker. I can come and help.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
got 10 miles for you.
unless anybody else has any questions, I think we can let you go to bed.
Thank you, Pete.
All right, I think that's, yeah, I mean, I didn't do the upcoming months, but it's pretty obvious. I will say one thing, the Better Roads grant on that schedule for September, that has a September 30th deadline, we're not gonna make it. But they are gonna award us the money for next year to do that same project. So, we are currently working on East Main Street sidewalks, and we're about 30% of the concrete is in place now. But because our big machine's down, it's going much slower. We still gotta finish both sides of the sidewalk. We've got an asphalt patch item on the Route 2 side. There's a lot of items in there that we're doing now with a small machine that, could take a lot more time, but we're gonna get it done. It's just, we're gonna be well into September before we finish that project.
Well, it looks great.
Yeah, it really does.
People are very happy. They've been waiting since 2016 for it, so.
14.
Oh, right, you're right. Yep. Well, the lady I talked to was we did the whole water line thing and everything.
Yeah.
She was told then, everybody kept telling us, oh, the state's coming in and within 2 years and doing all this and blah, blah. Here we know. We know the rest of the story, so. All right, I'm gonna let you go because I know you guys want to finish up, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, man.
Okay, next item on the agenda, consideration of request to use the soccer funded Acre field marking paint for soccer fields volunteers green. Could you do this one?
Yeah, so this was a fund that used to be managed really by the soccer volunteers. It started out as a town organization, sort of morphed into more of a instant-owned independent organization. Last year, they came to us and said they'd like to put the management with Mansfield United, which also manages rec programs and travel programs. They have a much better system for that. The board agreed that. There was about $17,000 in the soccer fund. We talked about what to do with that money. The ultimate decision was to keep it with the town and use it for any soccer related expenses that would come before us, or other expenses related to volunteers green that may not be soccer specific. Because it's a reserve fund, the board has authority to spend out of it, and nobody else does. So I wanted to put it as its own agenda item, just to make sure that you know of the request, even though it's only $1,600 million.
10 and 20 cents.
16, 10, and 20. So, but
Okay, this is Bart. I'd move to approve the use of $1,610.20 from the soccer reserve fund to purchase field marking paint for soccer fields at Volunteers Green.
This is Caitlin, I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion from Bart Hill, seconded by Caitlin Filkins, to approve the use of $1,610.20 from the soccer reserve fund to purchase field marking paint for soccer fields at Volunteers Green. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
Jay, aye. Next, review of the Richmond Rescue Fiscal Year 25 fourth quarter statistics and report. As always, they're doing a phenomenal job, and we are very lucky to have them. Any questions or comments about the report?
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. Okay, seriously, if Michael and company, if you're listening to this, we really are deeply grateful. Okay, consideration of moving the first meeting in September to September 2, 2025, due to the holiday on September 1, 2025.
Jay, this is Bart. I move to move the first meeting in September to September 2nd, 2025, due to the holiday on September 1st, 2025.
Caitlin, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Bart Hill, second by Caitlin Filkins to move the first meeting in September to September 2nd, 2025, due to the holiday on September 1st, 2025. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
And Jay, aye. Okay, we have 3 purchase orders and then the warrants.
Here you go.
Okay, so our first purchase order is purchase order 5079 to Watershed Consulting for engineering for the Southview 3-acre permit to $34,159.87. You will recall that this is the one that we tacitly put in abeyance because we didn't want to finish it until we had more clearance, any clarification from the state.
And this one, as you said, there's a little bit of work that went over the initial agreement. There will be one more bill coming for some staff time. But I don't know exactly how much of it is, so I put this, but he stopped all work. I made sure I followed up with him after the last meeting. He's not doing anything else until there's any other changes. So I wanted to amend this purchase order based on what we knew, and then we'll get another one. So don't be surprised when next meeting you see a slightly larger amount.
Questions? Motion?
Jay, this is David. I move to amend purchase order 5079 to Watershed Consulting for engineering for the Southview 3-acre permit to $34,159.87.
It was neat how your voice dropped in pitch throughout the motion.
Can you tell I'm enthused?
Yeah.
Jay, this is Bart. I move second.
Okay, we have a motion to amend purchase order 5079 to Watershed Consulting for engineering for the Southview 3-acre permit, $34,159.87. Please take your name and your vote.
Caitlin, abstain.
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
Jay, aye. Next, we have purchase order 5349 to mow and maintain for ground maintenance in the summer and fall of 2025 and the amount of $24,000.
Jay, this is David. I move to approve purchase order number 5349 to mow and maintain for grounds maintenance in the summer and fall of 2025 in the amount of $24,000.
Jay, this is Bart. I would like to second that motion.
Yay! Okay, we have a motion from David Sanders, seconded by Bart Hill to approve purchase order 5349 to mow and maintain for grounds maintenance in the summer and fall 2025 in the amount of $24,000.
And can I just say, again, from what I've seen, they did a really good job.
Yep. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
Jay, aye. Okay. And the last is purchase order 5350 to Heinsberg PD for police services and police chief services in fiscal year 26 in the amount of $122,520.
Jay, this is David. I move to approve purchase order number 5350 to the Heinsberg Police Department for police services and police chief services in fiscal year 26 in the amount of $122,520.
Caitlin, I'll second.
Hey, we have a motion from David Sanders, seconded by Caitlin Filkins to approve purchase order number 5350 to Heinsberg PD for police services and police chief services in fiscal year 26, the amount of $122,520. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, aye.
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
Jay, aye.
Jay, this is David. I move to approve the minutes of the August
8th.
August 4th,
August 4th.
2025 meeting.
This is Bart, I'll second.
Okay, we motion David Sanders, seconded by Bart Hill to approve the minutes of the August 4th meeting. Any updates, questions, comments, concerns?
I was sick, so I'm not gonna.
Okay. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, abstain.
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
Jay, aye. Okay, items for next agenda.
Warrants.
Oh, warrants. I almost did it again.
Hey, this is David. Move to approve the warrants.
Is Bart second?
Okay, we have a motion made by David Center, seconded by Bart Hill to approve the warrants. Please state your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
And Jane, aye. Item for next agenda.
Are we gonna do follow-up on our brainstorm list of parking interventions?
Yep, and follow up on signs, sign
Yeah.
policy. And let's see, it's in the back of my head.
Can we have a, uh, what is appropriate here, but an update from the attorney around that sign and if it falls into exempt or if it falls into a needing to get a,
Our sign?
You mean if it's government speech or not?
Well, Matt Moultrie was saying it's political. And
Oh, political, yeah.
well, and also Kara was saying that we need to put it regardless, but.
Well,
we
that'll
don't need to
be,
put it.
the permit would be more of a Keith Milburn
Yeah.
question, internal. I can ask if they think that the OM is political.
I thought we had gone down that path, but maybe not.
I mean, I don't know if we ever asked if it was expressly political, but I think the answer was basically, if the select board has a resolution and wants to display the sign, you can go ahead and do that. But I don't know if we ever asked, is the cause political?
Okay. Well, any other thoughts, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself and Josh. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Does Bart motion to adjourn?
Caitlin second.
We have a motion from Bart Hill, seconded by Wilkins to adjourn. Please take your name and your vote.
Caitlin, I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.